Chapter 464. Cold Star. He had been ranked first on the Heaven's Chosen list for several years, and his strength had already reached the half-step Spirit Sea realm. Compared to some elders, he was not the slightest bit inferior. Moreover, just like Tianyang, Lung Xing was also a sword cultivator. His ice martial spirit was even more tyrannical. It was the only high-grade Earth-ranked martial spirit in Sky Blue College. It could be said that he was the number one person in the inner courtyard of Sky Blue College. Tianyang is so ferocious. Could it be that he wants to challenge Lung Xing? One of them couldn't help but whisper. Hearing this, everyone's hearts trembled as their gazes wandered between Tianyang and Lung Xing. If that was the case, then one was a dazzling new star, and the other was a veteran genius of the inner courtyard. No matter who won or lost, it would be an extremely exciting battle. Speaking of which, the current great competition of the 10 halls has become a complete mess. All the rules are gone. At this moment, a person muttered. Hearing this, everyone finally reacted. Logically speaking, when the first hall challenged the 10th hall, it should be after the battle was over for the second hall to choose their opponent to fight. In the end, because of Tianyang's appearance, the strongest geniuses of the various halls all went up to deal with Tianyang. Tianyang's movements were even faster, and every single one of them was killed in one move. It was precisely because the time was so short that no one was able to react. Now that it was mentioned, everyone finally woke up. However, this great competition of the 10 halls was originally meaningless. The only variable was the 10th hall. If Tianyang wins, then the first hall will replace the first hall. If Tianyang loses, then the first hall will still be the weakest hall. A person said fanatically, "This is the decisive battle that will determine the fate of the first hall and the 10th hall." At this moment, Lung Xing also glanced at Tianyang. A trace of battle intent flashed across his slightly feminine face. "You are very strong. You are at the peak of the second heaven of the Tao Fire Realm. Yet countless experts at the third heaven of the Tao Fire Realm are no match for you." Hearing this, Tianyang smiled faintly. 2 months ago, Tianyang was able to kill the Su family's great ancestor. 2 months later, it was nothing for him to kill a few inner yard geniuses. However, if you want to defeat me, you're still miles away, Lung Xing said with a smile. The strong confidence in his words spread out. Seeing this, Tianyang's eyes narrowed slightly. Then, the corners of Tianyang's mouth curled up. 108,000 miles? Anyone can talk big, but in the end, we still have to see who's the real deal. All right. Hearing this, Lung Xing immediately laughed out loud and flew to the martial arts arena. With a flash of light in his hand, a long sword that emitted an extremely sharp aura appeared in his hand. "This is my weapon, a mid-tier spiritual weapon, the heaven-shattering sword. I hope you are worthy of this sword," Lung Xing said. Hearing this, Tianyang also smiled. With a flash of light in his hand, the stick's sword appeared. "Then, there's no time to lose. Let's start the battle," Tianyang shouted loudly. In the next moment, he used the 9 Heavens Dragon roaming steps and charged out. Boom! At the same time, Lung Xing also rushed out. The heaven-shattering sword in his hand flashed with light as he slashed out, shattering heaven and earth. Thunder God descends. Heavenly Sun laughed loudly. Lightning gathered on the Styx River sword as he slashed out. Boom! Endless light erupted. In the next moment, the 2 sword lights collided fiercely. The entire world began to tremble. This is the battle between the 2 great sword cultivators. A person's heart was surging with emotions. The veins on his arms were popping out. He was incomparably excited. The battle between the kings of the past and the kings of today has also begun. Boom! 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 Lightning exploded, and that extremely cold sword was not to be outdone. The 2 sword lights intertwined, and then, with a loud sound, the 2 sword lights were annihilated at the same time. "He can actually block my sword." "That's right. However, if you want to defeat me, you're still too far away," Lung Xing sneered. The heaven-shattering sword in his hand flashed, and a dark blue sword light ruthlessly slashed out. Earth tier martial skill, snowstorm. The sword light slashed out, and in the blink of an eye, it turned into an incomparably terrifying storm. When Tianyang saw this, he smiled faintly and formed a seal with his hand. An extremely profound rune instantly rushed out. Devouring Heaven Seal. The Devouring Heaven Seal was a heaven-tier martial skill. Not only was it of great help in cultivation, it was also extraordinarily powerful in battle. The huge and deep pitch-black vortex collided with a huge snowstorm. Snow and ice flew everywhere, and the power of devouring bloomed. Boom! An extremely bright and dazzling light illuminated the entire martial arts arena. Even the elders who were maintaining order were dumbstruck. Their faces were filled with disbelief. No matter which one of these two attacks, they had the ability to injure them. If it was a weaker elder, he might have been seriously injured. Was this still a battle between two students? What a powerful move. At this time, Lung Xing's expression changed drastically as he looked at the Devouring Heaven Seal in front of him in disbelief. He was incomparably shocked. This move can actually suppress my snowstorm. That's right, the Devouring Heaven Seal had suppressed Lung Xing's sword strike. After all, the difference in strength between the two sides wasn't too great. If it was a martial skill of the same level, it was really possible for them to be evenly matched. However, the Devouring Heaven Seal was a mid-grade heaven-tier martial skill. It was superior to the countless ice and snowstorms of Lung Xing. Explode! Tianyang roared angrily. The devouring vortex formed by the Devouring Heaven Seal instantly expanded to the limit, completely devouring the ice and snowstorm. Boundless energy surged into Tianyang's body, causing Tianyang's strength to increase by a bit. Using the 9 Heavens Dragon roaming steps, Tianyang's figure once again disappeared from his original spot. Crap! Seeing that the ice and snowstorm had been broken and Tianyang's figure had disappeared, Lung Xing's expression changed drastically. At this time, a deep sword light came from behind him. Bang! Lung Xing hurriedly used his sword to block, releasing the true essence of a half-step spirit sea realm. However, he was still forced back a few steps by the sword, almost falling out of the martial arena. What powerful strength! No wonder he was able to break through the entire trial tower. Lung Xing looked at Tianyang, who had appeared behind him in shock. The hand holding the heaven-breaking sword was even trembling slightly, not only because of his injuries, but also because of his burning fighting spirit. However, I, Lung Xing, am not that easy to defeat. Lung Xing roared, and in the next moment, the true essence of a half-step spirit sea realm suddenly erupted. His martial spirit appeared. However, this time, it wasn't the bone-chilling cold. Instead, it was a blazing flame. What? Wasn't Lung Xing's martial spirit ice? When did it become a flame? Seeing this scene, everyone in the audience was incomparably shocked. Even the people from the first hall had faces of disbelief. There was only one martial spirit. This was an unbreakable iron law. However, Lung Xing had unleashed 2 different martial spirits. One martial spirit with 2 forms of ice and fire. Interesting. The corners of Tianyang's mouth curled up. At this time, the ball of flame was already burning fiercely on the heaven-breaking sword. Chapter 465. Half-Step Heaven Stage Martial Skill, Burning Heaven. Lung Xing roared, and the heaven-breaking sword in his hand that was burning with terrifying flames suddenly slashed out. Boom! A sword light that burned with terrifying flames shot out. In an instant, a terrifyingly high temperature evaporated all the water vapor in the arena. That huge flame seemed to want to completely burn everything. This power was simply terrifying. Half-Step Heaven Stage Martial Skill. It seems that this cold star has an extraordinary background. At this moment, Tianyang raised his eyebrows and chuckled. However, it's still a little lacking. In the next moment, the 109th Netherworld mark on the True Dragon's dragon core erupted. Surging dragon force mixed with Netherworld death chi directly covered the entire River Styx sword. Immediately after, a monstrous aura of death erupted. River of Sticks sword technique. Third sword, River of Forgetfulness. The fourth sword, Azura Dao. Tianyang was unwilling to use it under such circumstances, because the Azura Dao was a sword of slaughter. When the sword was drawn, there would be blood. Without seeing blood, he would suffer a backlash. This was the inner court of Sky Blue College. Not to mention that death was not allowed in the 10 Hall's great competition. Tianyang was also unwilling to casually kill people. He didn't have any grudges with Lung Xing. If he killed him directly, wouldn't that be a pain in the ass? And at this moment, the deathly sword light that belonged to the River of Forgetfulness collided with the burning heaven flame. Boom! 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 The martial arena trembled and space tore apart. Terrifying waves of air erupted and directly blasted away some of the weaker people below the arena. Even experts like Zhou Ling and Jiang Tian had a drastic change in expression. They had no choice but to use their true essence to defend against the aftershocks. Just the aftershocks were enough to force these people to use their full strength. From this, it could be seen how powerful Tianyang and Lung Xing were. He actually blocked it. Seeing that his blazing flames incinerate the heavens was blocked by Tianyang's stick's sword technique, a trace of shock immediately appeared on Lung Xing's face. His cultivation was a half-step spirit sea realm. He was much stronger than Tianyang. In the end, his half-step heaven stage martial skill sword was actually blocked by Tianyang's sword. Didn't that mean if Tianyang had broken through to the third layer of the Dao fire realm, killing him in an instant would be easy? In the next moment, the River of Forgetfulness's sword directly shattered the blazing flames and shot towards the cold star. Damn it, I won't allow it. Lung Xing let out a loud roar, and in the next moment, his figure disappeared from where he stood. Other than the blazing flames, the ice that he had displayed earlier also erupted. Frost shatters heaven and earth. Lung Xing roared, and the heaven-breaking sword in his hand burst out with a terrifying cold light. In the next moment, he aimed at Tianyang's back and slashed out. Sky Extreme Sword Art. Second sword shatter the heavens. Tianyang would not give Lung Xing the slightest chance. As soon as Lung Xing moved, he had already reacted and slashed out with his sword. The Annihilation Spiritual Fire and the Annihilation Sword Intent contained within the heaven-shattering sword directly shattered the cold sword light of the cold star and ruthlessly charged towards the cold star. Damn it! Lung Xing's expression changed drastically. The true essence in his body erupted, and his figure flashed, directly arriving at another place. However, the heaven-shattering sword was not to be trifled with. Even though Lung Xing had successfully dodged at the last moment, the heaven-shattering sword still left a long scar on Lung Xing's left arm. Lung Xing is injured. In the audience stands a disciple of the first hall discovered the bleeding sword scar, and his expression changed drastically. Lung Xing is actually injured. In the hearts of the disciples of the first hall, Lung Xing was an invincible existence. In the end, before Tianyang was injured, Lung Xing had already suffered heavy injuries. Immediately, the entire audience was shocked. It can actually injure me. Touching the wound on his left arm and feeling the waves of pain coming from it, Lung Xing's expression changed slightly. Then he stared at Tianyang. Then, you are qualified to make me use this sword. Lung Xing's tone was cold, and a tyrannical aura was emitted from his body. Faintly, there was the sound of a dragon's cry. Tianyang's expression changed slightly as he looked at the cold star in front of him, revealing a hint of surprise. Dragon cry? And Fengyu? Interesting, interesting. Tianyang chuckled. At this moment, he had already seen through Lung Xing's physique. According to the legends, the powerful physique that gathered the power of the two great races, the Dragon Phoenix Divine Body. Lung Xing actually possessed such a powerful physique. One had to know that even in his previous life, Tianyang had never seen one before. However, Lung Xing possessed this type of physique that was not much different from Ling Yuan's 9 Nether Saint body. I thought that this sword strike would only be used against a sea of Soul Realm expert. I didn't expect that the first time I used it, I would use it on a cultivator at the peak of the second layer of the Tao Fire Realm. On Lung Xing's body, dragon and phoenix patterns appeared one after another, and Lung Xing's aura also began to rise steadily. In the next moment, a flame suddenly ignited. Seeing this flame, Tianyang's expression immediately changed. The appearance of this flame was only that of an ordinary flame. However, in the middle, it was divided into two different types of power. On the left, there was a ball of extreme yang flames, as if it wanted to burn the world. On the right, there was an icy blue light that emitted a cold aura that almost froze the entire world. This ice and fire fused together on top of a ball of flame. This martial spirit, it was definitely not just high-grade earth stage. Low-grade heaven stage martial skill. Within Lung Xing's body, the true essence of half a step into the spirit sea realm circulated at an extremely fast speed. In the next moment, Lung Xing used all of his trump cards, fusing the power of the Dragon Phoenix divine body and the power of the ice and fire martial spirit into one. Heaven stage martial skill. This kid's background is definitely extraordinary. Seeing this sword, Tianyang faintly smiled. Half-step heaven stage martial spirit, heavenly sword, appeared. The stick's sword and the heavenly sword fused into one. In the next moment, a surging aura also appeared on Tianyang's body. Heavenly sword art, third sword, star burial, sword breaking the heavenly river. The two of them shouted at the same time. In the next moment, they both belonged to the heaven stage martial skill and shot out. The divine desolate heavenly spirit art circulated at an extremely fast speed. 108 drops of sky origin true essence burned crazily, adding to the star burial sword. The dragon phoenix divine body erupted with all its strength, and the ice and fire martial spirit was completely released, condensing on the sword breaking the heavenly river. In the next moment, the two terrifying sword lights collided. Boom! A terrifying explosion rang out, and in the next moment, the entire battling platform shattered. Space was torn apart. The martial arena collapsed. An extremely dazzling light even covered the radiance of the sun in the sky. Even I can't block it. Jiang Siming's face was filled with shock, and at this moment, another loud explosion rang out. Boom! The martial arena completely collapsed. Countless people fled in panic, and in the center of the martial arena, the light gradually dissipated, and the figures of the two were exposed. In the next moment, Lung Xing's body trembled for a moment, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. The Dragon Phoenix divine body was dispelled. Bang! He fell to the ground. Chapter 466. Lung Xing defeated. Seeing Lung Xing vomiting blood and fainting, everyone, including the elders and students, were shaken. They all realized one thing. The inner courtyard was about to change. Humph! At this time, in the first hall, an elder of the Wang family suddenly stood up and stared at Tianyang. Tianyang, you disregarded the rules and rebelled against your superiors. What should you do? My first hall, Yuan Shan, was ruthlessly attacked by you and crippled his cultivation. The first hall, Lung Xing, was beaten by you until he vomited blood and fainted. You have no respect for your elders and don't know how to respect your teachers. Now, I will cripple you and stabilize the inner courtyard. The Wang family elder coldly snorted, and in the next moment he rushed out. The true essence of the peak of the half-step spirit sea realm exploded out and blasted towards Tianyang. Killing intent surged in his eyes. Tianyang was only at the peak of the second layer of the Tao Fire Realm, yet he was already so powerful. What if he reached the third layer of the Tao Fire Realm? Perhaps the entire Wang family would be destroyed because of Tianyang. Now, Tianyang had just defeated Lung Xing, so he would definitely consume a lot of energy. He could definitely kill him easily and get rid of the Wang family. Humph! At this time, Tianyang's eyes focused as he looked at the Wang family elder. He slashed out with the Styx river sword in his hand, forcing the Wang family elder to retreat. In the next moment, a terrifying sword radiance shot out and struck the Wang family elder in the chest, sending him flying backward. Disregarding the rules? Rebelling against his superiors? What a joke. From the beginning to the end, I was only fighting on behalf of the 10th Hall. How could I ignore the rules? Tianyang coldly looked at the dignified Wang family elder who seemed to be standing on the moral high ground and said, Yuan Shan being crippled is purely his own doing. If he hadn't crippled my comrade's cultivation, I wouldn't have broken his dantian. If the heavens do evil, it can be forgiven, but if you bring it on yourself, you can't live. Disrespecting your elders is even more laughable. An elder like you who doesn't care about right or wrong, who doesn't care about justice, is worthy of my eyes? Tianyang sneered. Every word of his was heart-wrenching. Hearing him, the Wang family elder's face turned pale. Then, a wave of blood rushed up to his face. Peak level C of Soul's realm, Zhen Yuan condensed at an extreme speed, and his body disappeared from where he was standing. You're full of nonsense. Now, I'm going to clean up the 10th Hall. Earth tier high-grade martial skill, Heaven collapsing fist. The elder of the Wang family roared. True Yuan condensed in his hands, and in the next moment, he punched towards Tianyang's head. With a single punch, space shattered, and waves of energy surged. Sky-shattering fist? You haven't mastered it yet. Tianyang chuckled as he withdrew the Styx River sword. He used the void-treading secret technique and soared into the sky. 108 dragons appeared. Dragon King Divine Fist. Roar. It was as if a Dragon King was roaring. The surging dragon might suppress the heavens and the earth. The 108 Dragon Force dragons also fiercely collided with the sky, collapsing fist. Boom! A terrifying explosion rang out. Tianyang stood in the air, motionless. As for the Wang family elder, he flew out like a cannonball and smashed into the wall of the martial arts arena. Blood continuously spewed out of his mouth, and his aura was extremely weak. He had actually been broken by Tianyang's punch. Lung Xing, who had just woken up, looked at this scene with a complicated expression. So, Tianyang was still holding back just now? Thinking of how proud he was of being ranked first on the Heaven's Chosen list, Lung Xing felt a wave of bitterness. He got up and walked towards the exit, leaving without looking back. Tianyang, he's actually so strong. Even that old bastard Wang Ming could be sent flying with a single punch. Jiang Siming looked at the proud Tianyang with a face full of shock. Wang Ming was one of the upper echelons of the Wang family. Even he couldn't contend against him. As for Tianyang, with just a single punch, he shattered Wang Ming's sky-collapsing fist and even sent him flying. Wang Ming continuously spat out blood as he looked at Tianyang with a face full of shock. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't figure out how Tianyang could have such powerful strength. It just so happens that I also want to find trouble with the Wang family. Now let's settle it all together. Tianyang sneered. In the next moment, the heavenly sword shone with endless light, directly illuminating the entire martial arts arena. Immediately after, an extremely terrifying devouring power erupted. Endless energy gathered on Tianyang's body, causing his cultivation to soar from the peak of the second layer of the Tao Fire Realm to the peak of the third layer of the Tao Fire Realm. He was only one step away from the half-step Spirit Sea Realm. After that, Tianyang stepped into the air and slowly walked towards the Wang family elder who was embedded in the wall and could no longer move. Don't come over. What are you doing? Wang Ming's face was filled with fear. If you kill me, then you will definitely suffer the Wang family's thunderous revenge. At that time, when the family head takes action, you will definitely die without a burial place. At this moment, Zhou Linger also woke up from her shock and hurriedly said, Tianyang, calm down. Now is not the time to fall out with the Wang family. The Wang family head is one of the first palace masters. If you do this, you will attract the Wang family head's attention. Zhou Linger hurriedly said. Hearing this, Tianyang held the stick sword and turned his head, smiling faintly. Thank you for your concern, senior sister. However, I must kill this person today. It's also time to clean up the vermin in the inner yard. Tianyong smiled faintly. In the next moment, the stick sword in his hand was raised high. Wang Ming was also extremely frightened. Don't kill me. I am willing to be your slave. It's too late. Tianyong sneered and slashed down with his sword. The second move of the stick's sword technique, the Bridge of Helplessness. A sword light filled with deathly stillness slashed out. Wang Ming was instantly beheaded, and his soul was blasted into powder. He really killed Wang Ming. At this moment, on the elders' seats, Yuan Hao's whole body trembled as he looked at Tianyong. He was only an ordinary peak half-step C of Soul Realm. If Tianyong wanted to kill him, with the strength he had just displayed, it would be a piece of cake. However, Tianyong only glanced at Yuan Hao, then turned and left. He used the Void Step Secret technique and rushed towards the first palace. Previously, he did not have the strength, so he could only swallow his anger and be arranged to carry out the death mission. Now, 2 months later, he could even fight a first-level C of Soul Realm expert. What was there to fear from the Wang family head, who was merely a peak half-step C of Soul Realm expert? Phew, he didn't kill me. Yuan Hao watched Tianyong leave and breathed a sigh of relief. His whole body went limp and collapsed, as if he had just suffered a great disaster. Jiang Siming, who was beside him, laughed bitterly. Perhaps he disdained to kill you. Yuan Hao's expression froze. Then he laughed again. It's fine if he disdains to kill me. It's good that he disdains to kill me. At least I saved my old life. Although the inner yard was huge, in front of the terrifying speed of the Void Step Secret technique, it only took a few breaths to go from the battlefield to the first palace. Heavenly Sun sneered as he looked at the bustling first palace with people coming and going. Chapter 467. Wang family head, get out here. As Tianyong shouted, the entire first hall was shaken. Countless people raised their heads and looked at the young man in the sky in shock. Wang family head? Wasn't that one of the hall masters of the first hall? There was someone in the inner yard who dared to treat their hall master like that. That person looks familiar. Wait a minute. Could this person be the one who was ordered to carry out the death mission by the Wang family head after passing the trial tower, Tianyong? Someone recognized Tianyong and said in shock. Tianyong's name had been known throughout the inner yard since he entered the school. Now that Tianyong had returned, it was only natural that many people recognized him. He's provoking home Master Wang? How is this possible? No matter how strong Tianyong is, how dare he provoke home Master Wang? Another person was shocked beyond words. At this moment, Ling Yuhan, Flying Sword, Zhou Ling and the rest all arrived. Master! Ling Yuhan shouted loudly and directly flew over. However, before he could fly over, he was blocked by an invisible barrier. Wait a minute, I'm going to fight the Wang family head. If you stay here, you'll be affected by the aftermath. Go back to the first hall first. Tianyong smiled gently. Ling Yuhan nodded. Take care, master. Kill that bullshit hall master. Flying Sword didn't need Tianyong to say anything. He turned and left. They all knew that if they forced themselves to stay here, they would only cause more trouble for Tianyong. In the air, other than the large group of onlookers behind, only Zhou Ling was left. Tianyong spoke slowly. Senior Sister Ling, do you remember what I said when I first entered the inner yard? Tianyong said. Zhou Ling's heart trembled. Let the 10th hall rule the inner yard again. That's right. That's what I'm doing now. Therefore, Senior Sister, you should hurry back as well. Today, I will definitely kill the Wang clan leader. Tianyong said indifferently. His killing intent towards the Wang clan had already reached its peak. If it weren't for the Wang clan abusing their authority and using their authority to kill Wang Lang, forcing him to go to the nest of 1,000 devils, he would have already accomplished something in the inner yard. However, it was precisely because of the Wang family that he had almost died in the nest of myriad devils. He had almost lost the chance to see Ling Yuhan and the others again. How could Tianyong not be angry? Even the Nangong family and the Zhao family did not make Tianyong so angry. All right, do your best. Stay alive. Zhou Ling looked at Tianyang and opened her mouth. In the end, she could only say these 6 words. Hearing this, Tianyang smiled. Wait for my triumphant return. At this moment, Tianyang turned his head and looked at the center of the first hall again. His cold voice resounded throughout the entire inner court. Old dog of the Wang clan, if you don't come out, I'll tear down your first hall. How dare you? At this moment, a middle-aged man suddenly rushed out from the center of the first hall. His half-step sea of soul realm aura was released. It suppressed everyone. He was the Wang clan leader, Wang Zun. At the same time, he was also one of the most powerful people in the first hall and even in the entire inner yard. However, at this moment, Wang Zun was staring at Tianyang with a furious gaze. His eyes were filled with killing intent. Seeing this, Tianyang sneered. You are the Wang clan leader? Yes. The Wang clan leader looked at Tianyang coldly. You killed my son and were sent to the nest of 1,000 devils. Now, you actually dare to come back. Going to the nest of 1,000 devils was the decision of the entire inner yard's upper echelons. You actually dared to go against it so brazenly. Could it be that you want to rebel? The Wang clan leader sneered. As soon as he opened his mouth, he put a big hat on Tianyang. It was as if he was abusing his power and was a supreme saint, while Tianyang was an unpardonable sinner. How is the nest of 1,000 devils? Are your dog eyes blind? Don't you know how to look? As for killing your son, not only will I kill your son, but I will also kill your elders and kill you. Tianyang laughed loudly. Hearing this, Wang Zun's face turned ashen and gloomy. After so many years, kid, you're the first person to speak to me like this. Hearing this, Tianyang's face was indifferent. The stick's sword in his hand released rays of dangerous light. Not only will I speak to you like this, moreover, I will kill you like this. It will be me who will kill you. Wang Zun roared. His half-step sea of soul realm Jinyuan burst out. Both of his hands were out, releasing rolling power. Mid-grade Earth-class martial technique, Great Annihilation Palm. In the next moment, the Jinyuan condensed and turned into 2 huge grayish-black palms. With unparalleled annihilation power, they directly attacked. Seeing this, Tianyang's face was calm. The stick's sword in his hand flashed out. I don't know how many palms like this I have destroyed. Sky Sword Art. First sword, sky soaring. A ray of sword light burst out from the stick's sword's blade and collided with Wang Zun's Great Annihilation Palm. Boom! Rolling power burst out, shaking the entire inner courtyard. Even though the 2 of them were standing in midair, the ground under their feet cracked inch by inch. Countless people's faces changed. The first hall students were even more affected. They all screamed and ran away. On the ground, Li Tusu, Lu Ao, and the others looked at Tianyang, who was fighting fiercely with the Wang clan leader in the sky with complicated expressions. A few months ago, there were still people who fought side by side. Now, Tianyang had rapidly grown to the point where they could only look up to him. In this lifetime, there's no way to catch up, Li Tusu sighed. Lu Ao, who was beside him, had a look of admiration. To be able to force the Bastard Hall leader to such a state, Senior is really amazing. In these years, Wang Zun had abused his power to develop the Wang clan. Anyone who stood in his way was killed. There were also many ordinary students in the first hall who were oppressed by the Wang clan. Therefore, when they saw Wang Zun suffer, almost all the first hall students were excited and satisfied. However, in midair, Wang Zun's face was ashen. This was because in front of him, his Great Annihilation Palm was easily shattered. The remaining sword light was coming straight for him. How is this possible? Wang Zun's face was extremely ugly. In the next moment, he punched out with his right fist. Earth low-grade martial technique, sea and sky blending. The power of space and Jinyuan merged and condensed into a majestic image of the sea. It was ruthlessly aimed at Sky's soaring sword. At this moment, Tianyang had already used the dragon's 9 heavens roaming steps and arrived behind Wang Zun. Stick sword art. Third sword, river of forgetfulness. What? Wang Zun's pupil shrank. Only then did he realize that Tianyong had arrived behind him. Chapter 468. One from the front and one from the back. The two swords attacked together. Wang Zun's expression changed as he stared at Tianling's sword and the bridge of helplessness behind him. Then, he immediately made a painful decision. He ignored Tianling's sword and turned to defend against the river of forgetfulness. Boom! Tianyang's body was sent flying by Wang Zun's punch, but he did not suffer any injuries. Wang Zun, on the other hand, took a solid hit from Tianling's sword. Wang Zun's back was torn open by the sword and blood spurted out. Wang Zun's expression turned ugly. If he had not underestimated his opponent, Tianyong would not have been able to get to his back without him noticing. This Wang family head has some brains. Tianyong raised his eyebrows and looked at Wang Zun in a higher light. In the situation just now, most people would choose to defend from both sides. In the end, both sides would be defeated. At that time, Tianyong would seize the opportunity to slash Wang Zun. Even if Wang Zun did not die, he would be crippled. After all, Tianyong's sword was not so easy to receive. Who would have thought that Wang Zun's reaction speed would be so fast? He turned around like a warrior cutting off his wrist and chose to expose his back to the terrifying sword. In the end, Tianling's sword successfully injured Wang Zun. However, the opportunity that Tianyong fought so hard for was also destroyed by Wang Zun. It must be said that Wang Zun was not lucky to be the Wang family head and the first palace head. "You actually injured me." Wang Zun glared at Tianyong, his eyes spitting fire. In the next moment, his body flashed, and he appeared in front of Tianyong. Sky-shattering fist. A terrifying power that could shatter heaven and earth erupted from Wang Zun's hands. In the next moment, this fist was right in front of Tianyong. Compared to the sky-shattering fist that Wang Ming used before, this fist was countless times stronger. River of Sticks swordplay, third form, River of Forgetfulness. Tianyong shouted coldly, not surprised in the slightest. Nether Death Chi and Nether Force surged out and turned into a brilliant sword light that collided with the fist. Boom! Both of them were blasted back by over 10 m, while the vital blood within their bodies roiled. Moreover, at the center of the collision from before, numerous extremely terrifying rifts had been torn open in space. It was obvious that the two of them did not gain an advantage in this confrontation. Interesting. This sky-shattering fist, compared to the one Wang Ming used, has a bit more profundity. If I'm not wrong, Tianyong Wang Zun smiled faintly. If I didn't come, you would have broken through to the first level C of Soul Realm soon. Wang Zun's face turned cold when Tianyong exposed him. That's right. If you hadn't come, I would have broken through in a short while. You'll pay for it with your blood, Wang Zun roared. In the next moment, his figure flashed, and he punched out again. Tianyong was not afraid. The River of Sticks sword in his hand turned into countless sword shadows and attacked Wang Zun fiercely. Boom, 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 boom. The sword shadows and fist shadows overlapped each other. The air and space exploded incessantly. The confrontation between the two had entered a white-hot stage. River of Sticks swordplay, 3 forms in 1. Tianyong shouted coldly. The River of Sticks sword in his hand burst out a brilliant light. Nether Death Chi erupted madly, as if a sword from the underworld had burst out. Peerless Earth Tier martial skill, sky-shattering divine fist. Wang Zun also roared. His half-step C of Soul Realm's true Yuan was released madly, condensing into a terrifying fist technique. It collided with Tianyong's 3 forms in 1 sword. Boom! The entire inner court was shaking because of this. Countless students were trembling in fear. There were even people hiding in some corners, secretly watching the battle between the two. As for Zhou, she was far away, watching the confrontation between Tianyong and Wang Zun with a complicated expression. In her heart, Tianyong had already left an indelible impression. Now, she naturally hoped that Tianyong would win. However, Wang Zun's strength was too strong. Boom! What bullshit, 3 forms in one. Destroy. Wang Zun roared. The sky's shattering divine fist erupted with supreme power, faintly condensing into a giant shadow behind him. It fiercely attacked Tianyang. Tianyang was not afraid. The river of sticks, sword in his hand, burst out a brilliant light. His true yuan madly gathered, and he slashed out a sword of death. Boom! The space shattered, and heaven and earth trembled. After this round of confrontation, Tianyang and Wang Zun launched another attack. Wang Zun's expression was extremely grave. He stared at Tianyang with a face full of disbelief. This young man, from the beginning to the end, had only unleashed the cultivation of the third heaven of Tao Fire Realm. In the end, he was able to tie with him. If he continued to grow in the future, wouldn't it be as easy to kill him as killing a chicken? A fierce light flashed in his eyes. Wang Zun roared, and the true yuan of the half-step sea of Soul Realm was completely released. To be able to force me to use this move. Tianyang, it's enough for you to be honored in the netherworld. Back then, I had risked my life in order to obtain this strongest move. Wang Zun roared, and in the next moment, the martial spirit in his sea of soul was released. A huge divine bull appeared behind him, and in the next moment, it merged with Wang Zun. Wang Zun's body suddenly expanded, and his strength directly broke through the limit of the half-step sea of Soul Realm, reaching the first level of sea of Soul Realm. Seeing this, Tianyang's expression turned serious. From the aura that Wang Zun emitted, Wang Zun had already used all his strength. In other words, this was the final battle. Styx River Sword Technique, 4th form. Tao of Azura. A murderous intent flashed in Tianyang's eyes, and in the next moment, the Styx River sword suddenly turned blood red. Endless murderous intent was released, and it turned into a huge domain of 1,000 meters. Massacre Domain. At this moment, Wang Zun had also finished accumulating. His eyes were fixed on Tianyang, and with a roar he punched out. Superior Earth Class Martial Spirit. Supreme Divine Bull. Quasi-Heaven Class Martial Skill. Refined Spirit Fist. In the next moment, an earth-shattering punch was launched at Tianyang. Tianyang laughed loudly and used the Void Step secret technique. The Styx River sword in his hand flashed with blood-red light. Styx River Sword Technique, 4th form, Tao of Azura. In an instant, countless gazes gathered on Tianyang and Wang Zun. In the dark, there were also 2 Sea of Soul Realm Almighties who were watching the scene unfold. At this moment, all the spiritual chi in the world belonged to the 2 of them. This was a collision that would decide their life and death. Boom! The mountain peak shattered. The entire inner yard was filled with cracks. Even the great defensive array was on the verge of collapse, and the 2 figures passed by each other. The fury on Wang Zun's face froze at that moment. On his chest, there was a sword wound that almost pierced through his chest, and blood was spurting out crazily. Tianyang, on the other hand, was vomiting blood from his mouth. However, the Sky Firmament's sword showed its power in time, and swallowed all the power of Wang Zun's martial spirit. In the next moment, the 2 of them fell to the ground. However, Tianyang stabbed the Styx River sword into the ground, and he was barely standing. He released a decisive aura. As for Wang Zun, he was lying on the ground, and his life force was rapidly disappearing. Chapter 469. Tianyang slowly opened his eyes. As soon as he opened his eyes, a sense of weakness surged from the inside of his body to his limbs and bones. The true yuan in his body was almost exhausted from the battle with Wang Zun. Wang Zun's last attack was too powerful. He was clearly only at the half-step sea of Soul Realm, but he managed to erupt with the power of a first-level sea of Soul Realm. Therefore, Tianyang had no choice but to use all his strength to force the sky-devouring secret technique to unleash another sea of Soul Realm attack. In the end, he won. You're awake? At this moment, an old voice sounded. Tianyang's expression changed slightly, and his muscles tightened. The seal on his soul was on the verge of breaking. This was his weakest moment, second only to the battle with the spirit of demonic chi not long ago. If this person harbored evil intentions, his life would be in danger. Don't worry. If I wanted to kill you, I would have done it long ago. At that moment, the voice rang out again. Tianyong also turned his head to look, only to see Dean Zhao of the outer court standing respectfully behind the old man, while at the door, Zhou Linger and Ling Yuhan were sneakily looking inside. Around him was a spacious room, and he was lying on a bed. You are. Tianyong was still vigilant. His recovered sky, origin true yuan began to circulate slowly. If this person were to help, he would definitely be able to escape from danger. Although with Ling Yuhan and Zhou Linger outside, it was unlikely to be a dangerous situation. I'm the inner court dean of Sky Blue College, Qian Shengqian. You can call me Dean Qian. The old man smiled faintly. His long beard fluttered in the wind, and his loose white robe made him look like an immortal descending to the world. Hearing this, Tianyong's expression changed, and his vigilance dissipated. Why are you here? You killed Wang Zun. If I didn't come here, would I go to Wang Zun's grave to offer my condolences? Qian Shengqian smiled, and then began to explain slowly. It turned out that the Wang family was tyrannical in the inner court. Those who followed them would prosper, and those who opposed them would perish. The 2C of Soul Realm Deans were not blind. However, in the inner court, the Wang family's power was too strong. It was so strong that even the 2C of Soul Realm Deans were unwilling to make a move. If they made a move as Deans, it would definitely cause panic among the other families in the inner court. This was definitely not an outcome that the two school heads were willing to see. However, other than the Wang family, there was no other family that could contend against the Wang family. Even the Zhang family could not do so. In the end, the two deans could only mediate and do their best to stop it. However, they could not openly take action. However, the appearance of the Heavenly Sun was a great help to them. Heavenly Sun appeared out of nowhere and rose in defiance of the heavens. In just a few short months, he leaped from the peak of the Quasi-Dao Fire Realm to the peak of the second level of the Dao Fire Realm. Moreover, he used a special secret technique to increase his strength. He killed Wang Zun and almost destroyed the Wang family. He directly eliminated the inner court's greatest threat in Sky Blue College. The two deans were happy for a few hours. Now, Tianyong was sent to the best treatment room in the inner court. A half-step C of Soul Realm Elder, who was the best at treatment, treated Tianyong. That was why Heavenly Sun was able to recover so quickly despite having consumed so much energy. Is that so? Then, Tianyong looked at Qian Shengqian without a change in expression. If that was the case, there was no need to tell him personally. This Qian Shengqian was a third-level C of Soul Realm expert. If he was not mistaken, then Dean Zhao was also a first-level C of Soul Realm expert. Such an expert would either be handling affairs or cultivating. Why would he waste time here? Obviously, the two deans had more important things to do besides being happy. Seeing Tianyong's indifferent expression, Qian Shengqian was stunned. How could this kid not have any reaction at all when he could do such a thing that shocked Sky Blue College? However, thinking of the various miracles Tianyong had created, Qian Shengqian understood. After experiencing so much, his temperament was naturally extremely strong. He also sent people to investigate the nest of 1,000 devils. The result greatly exceeded Qian Shengqian's expectations. That place, which even he didn't want to go, was actually cleared out by Tianyong. The once infamous nest of myriad demons was now nothing more than an ordinary cave. In the center of the cave, Qian Shengqian didn't feel any demonic chi. Apart from some destroyed forests and collapsed mountains due to the battle, there was almost no change. Therefore, Qian Shengqian was extremely impressed with Tianyong. The nest of 1,000 devils, which he couldn't solve no matter what, was actually solved by a Dao Fire Realm cultivator. Thinking of this, Qian Shengqian's confidence in that matter became much more stable. You killed Wang Zun and got rid of a threat for the inner yard. This is a great thing, but the Wang family is spread throughout the inner yard. Now that the Wang family is destroyed, many key positions are naturally vacant. For example, the position of the first hall master can't always be empty. So, Qin Shengxian rubbed his hands and looked at Tianyang's calm face. He smiled and said, "May I ask if you are interested in becoming a hall master?" Huh? Tianyang suddenly screamed and looked at Qin Shengxian as if he was looking at an idiot. "No, definitely not. I'm a student of the 10th hall. Do you think I have nothing better to do than to be the first hall master? I won't even be the 10th hall master. Isn't that just torturing me?" Tianyang refused without hesitation. His reaction was so quick that Qin Shengxian was dumbfounded. In the inner yard, who knew how many peak half-step sea of Soul Realm elders were eyeing the vacant hall master position after Wang Xun's death. In the end, Tianyang refused decisively when it was offered to Tianyang. Think about it carefully. If you become the hall master, you will have countless cultivation resources at your disposal. You will also have an enormous amount of cultivation resources at your disposal. If you become the hall master, you will also become one of the most powerful people in the inner yard. Who knows how many people are eyeing this position? Are you really going to refuse? Qin Shengxian persuaded patiently. Hearing this, Tianyang's expression didn't change. He still refused decisively. Apart from this, there are still a lot of trivial matters to deal with, right? Tianyang looked at Qin Shengxian with a "don't think I'm easy to fool just because I'm young" expression. "Do I have nothing better to do? I still have to go to the central region. What's the point of staying in your sky blue college?" Hearing this, Qin Shengxian was extremely embarrassed. At this moment, Tianyang looked at the two beautiful girls peeping at the door and waved his hand. "Linger, come here." Hearing this, Zhou Linger was stunned. Then, she walked to Tianyang's side. At this moment, Tianyang solemnly pulled her to the side. "There's a suitable candidate here. That's right. Don't look at the side. It's her." Then, Tianyang looked at Zhou Ling, and said with a serious face, "Young girl, I see that you have a good physique. How about being a hall master? P.S. Everyone is destined to die. It may be as heavy as Mount Tai, or as light as a feather. If I die under heavy homework, am I as light as a feather, or as light as a feather?" Chapter 470. What? Hearing this, Zhou Ling jumped up and pointed at herself in disbelief. "Me?" Qin Shengxian had a strange look on his face. "It's fine if you don't want to be the hall master. I'm just giving you a suggestion. But you can't just pick a random person to be the hall master. The hall master has to be at least a half step into the sea of Soul Realm." Qin Shengxian said solemnly. Tianyang chuckled. "Ding, there's something you don't know. Senior Sister Ling of the Inner Yard is invincible with her iron fists. She can even defeat some elders. With such strength, it shouldn't be a problem for her to be the hall master. Her cultivation has reached the peak of the third heaven of Dao Fire Realm. With some time, it won't be a problem for her to break through to the half step into the sea of Soul Realm. I'm only at the peak of the second heaven of Dao Fire Realm. You want me to be the hall master? Doesn't this feel a little like an imperial decision?" Tianyang laughed. Qin Shengxian was speechless. It was an imperial decision. However, Qin Shengxian had heard a little about Zhou Ling strength, but the requirements to be the hall master of the first hall are different from the other halls. Although the 10th hall has successfully turned the tables and become the #1 hall, the first hall is still the strongest. Qin Shengxian said solemnly. Tianyang nodded slightly. He understood. Although the first hall had become the #1 hall in the Inner Yard tournament, it was only temporary. Tianyang had to admit it. The reason why they could become the #1 hall master was because of Tianyang, the 3 new students, and Zhou Ling. It had nothing to do with the other seniors. Under such circumstances, whether the first hall could hold on in the 10 halls tournament next year would be a problem. The first hall had been #1 for a long time and had a strong foundation. Zhou Ling was unfamiliar with the place and people. It would be difficult for her to be the hall master. But who told you that Linger is going to be the hall master of the first hall? You can choose the hall master of the first hall. At most, the 10th hall master will take over. What I want is for Ling to become the 10th palace master, Tianyang said. Hearing this, Zhou Ling trembled all over. Tears welled up in her eyes. She was extremely touched. She had stopped Tianyang many times before, but now Tianyang treated her like this. She was very touched. Qian Shengxian, on the other hand, was stunned. He glanced at Zhou Ling, and shook his head, saying, "There's something wrong with the temple lord. Ling has the inheritance of the 10th palace from 10,000 years ago, which is also the heavenly extreme palace. The reason why she could reach the half-step sea of Soul Realm so quickly is also because of this inheritance. Furthermore, this inheritance can be replicated." Tianyang chuckled. His words struck Qian Shengxian's heart like a hammer. Hearing that, Qian Shengxian no longer hesitated and immediately said, "Since that's the case, there's no problem. I'll think of another way to choose the first palace master. As for Zhou Ling, it's best that she becomes the 10th palace master." Then, Qian Shengxian hurried out. Tianyang didn't want to be the first palace master, so he had to discuss it with the elders. Dean Zhao, on the other hand, stood at the door and looked at Tianyang meaningfully. Then he smiled and said, "Young lady, you're so lucky." Hearing that, Zhou Ling's face flushed red. Then she said, "Can the heavenly extreme battle art really be taught to others?" Zhou Ling said, "Although the heavenly extreme battle art was found in the 10th palace, it was still Tianyang who brought it back to the world. Tianyang had the right to decide whether to teach it to others. Because of this, no matter how the elder asked, Zhou Ling kept her mouth shut. This made the elder depressed for a long time." Hearing that, Tianyang smiled faintly. "It's okay. The heavenly extreme battle art originally belonged to the heavenly extreme hall. I'm just a transfer point. However, the heavenly extreme battle art can't be taught to others so easily. They must have a good character and a high enough cultivation. Otherwise, if they practice the heavenly extreme battle art but go out to do evil, then it's your fault," Tianyang said. Hearing that, Zhou Ling nodded. "Okay." At this time, Ling Yuhan rushed in. Master, what are you talking about?" Hearing that, Tianyang patted Ling Yuhan's head and smiled. "Nothing. Tianyang is really willing to give up the first palace master position." Upon hearing Qian Shengxian's words, the eyes of the elders sitting in their respective seats lit up as they exclaimed in surprise. After all, Tianyang was not only the hero who destroyed the Wang family, but his own strength was also one of the best in Sky Blue College. If Tianyang wanted to fight for the first palace master position, the elders really had no competition at all. Now that Tianyang was willing to give up the first palace master position, it meant that they had hope. "That's right." Qian Shengxian nodded slightly. Looking at the excited elders in front of him, he said, "Now, let's vote." Qian Shengxian presided over the meeting, but he sighed in his heart. If Tianyang was the first palace master, it would undoubtedly be better. However, how could a small birdcage restrain an eagle that was growing day by day? Sky Blue College, Night Dome City, and Sky Dome Territory were just ordinary places on Tianyang's martial path. Perhaps he would stay there for a while, but ultimately, it would not restrain him. The marvelous central region was the true stage of the Heavenly Sun Empire. A month later, Tianyang stood outside the gates of Sky Blue Academy, looking at Ling Yuhan beside him, and then at Dao Feiyang and Zhou Ling, who had escorted him all the way to the gates of the outer court. He smiled lightly. Zhou Ling had successfully become the 10th palace master. Whether it was the 10th palace or the inner yard, no one was dissatisfied. As for Flying Sword, he knew his place and stayed in Sky Blue College. If he forced himself to follow Tianyang, he would only be a burden. It was better to stay in the inner yard and strengthen his strength so that he could help Tianyang in the future. In this month, Ling Yuhan had also reached the second heaven of the Dao Fire Realm. Tianyang had also taken action and destroyed the heavenly Yin Mountain branch in the eastern part of the Sky Dome territory. The Nangong family, who had colluded with the Demon Clan, was also slaughtered by Tianyang. However, the source of the Demon Clan was nowhere to be found. As for the Dongfang family, Tianyang did not make things difficult for them. He let those who had attacked Tianyang kill themselves and let them go. As for Lung Xing, who was ranked first on the prodigy roll and whom Tianyong somewhat admired. He left Sky Blue College after the battle with Tianyong. His whereabouts were still unknown. "Remember to come back," Zhou Ling shouted as she waved her hand vigorously, tears streaming down her face. Hearing this, Tianyong smiled and waved his hand. Then, he and Ling Yuhan soared into the air and flew thousands of miles away. Sky-piercing mountain, brilliant divine power, suppressing all directions. Sky dragon, fighting against the heavens, soaring through the 9 heavens. The holy land of martial arts, proudly existing, dazzling divine power, reflecting the 4 seas. Under the ocean, countless creatures and ferocious beasts gathered, heroes rising together. Chapter 471. The firmament territory and the central region were hundreds of thousands of miles apart. Even with the Heaven Tower's extreme speed, Tianyong and Ling Yuhan still took 3 days and 3 nights to reach the border of the firmament territory, the 100,000 mountains. In the 100,000 mountains, there's only one checkpoint closest to us. Once we pass it, we'll enter the central region. Ling Yuhan said as she read the information provided by Sky Blue College. Tianyong chuckled. The 100,000 mountains are indeed difficult to cross. There's a strange force field on it. Of course, with the power of the Heaven Tower, it won't be a problem to cross it. But since you've said so, let's go to the checkpoint and take a look. Tianyong smiled and changed the direction of the Heaven Tower, flying toward the checkpoint. During this month, Tianyong hadn't been idle. Apart from going out to deal with the Nangon family in the Heavenly Yin Mountain branch, he had spent the rest of his time either cultivating or hammering. Compared to the dilapidated appearance of the training ground, the current Heavenly Yuan Tower could be said to have taken on a new look. Except for the one that opened the door, the rest of the 82 runes on the outside had been modified by Tianyong. The thousands of runes on the inside had also been carefully modified by Tianyong. The current Heaven Tower was many times more powerful than the one in the trial ground. If the material of the tower was changed to a higher grade metal, the Heaven Tower could directly become an upper grade spiritual weapon. That was a treasure that even Sea of Soul and heaven-reaching realm experts coveted. I see it. At this moment, Tianyong looked at the towering checkpoint in the distance and chuckled. He walked out of the Heaven Tower and put it back into his spatial bag. A treasure like the Heaven Tower, which was close to an upper-grade spiritual weapon, couldn't be easily shown to others. Otherwise, it might attract the attention of Sea of Soul experts. The central region was full of talents. Among them, Dao Fire Realm experts could only be considered ordinary. However, there were also many Sea of Soul experts. For example, Long Haotian's Golden Dragon clan had close to 20 Sea of Soul Realm experts. As for the Black Dragon He Ming and Long Xinyan, they were also a large clan in the central region. Generally speaking, the number of Sea of Soul Realm experts in the central region was innumerable. There might even be a few reaching Heaven Realm experts. Tianyong would not attract the attention of a Sea of Soul Realm expert for no reason. After all, the consequences of opening the seal once would not be pleasant at all. Shanghai Pass, what a domineering name. Tianyong looked at the majestic checkpoint and nodded slightly. Just by looking at the majestic aura of the checkpoint that was forcefully opened up in the 100,000 mountain range, one could feel the desolate, domineering aura. And this name, together with this impregnable pass, brought out the best in each other. However, Tianyong looked at the people coming and going from Shanghai Pass. His expression changed slightly, and he walked over. There seemed to be something wrong with Shanghai Pass. Thinking like this, Tianyong lowered his body, hid his cultivation, and walked over. Shanghai Pass was not only an impregnable pass, but also a huge city. Compared to Demon Suppressing City and Sky Dome City, it was a little stronger. After all, after Shanghai Pass was the central region, and before Shanghai Pass was the Sky Dome region. Such a place where the two regions bordered was naturally incomparably prosperous. However, Tianyong frowned slightly, sensing that something was wrong. Halt! Just as Tianyong walked to the gate of Shanghai Pass, The tall guards on both sides immediately roared and released their peak 9th level origin transformation realm Zhen Yuan. The guard had an arrogant look on his face as he looked at Tianyang. His eyes were filled with disdain. As the guards of Shanghai Pass, who knew how many cultivator geniuses they had suppressed on a daily basis, those cultivator geniuses could only swallow their anger in front of them. Otherwise, they would not even be able to step into Shanghai Pass. At this time, they could not feel the slightest fluctuation of cultivation on Tianyang's body. Naturally, they treated him as an ordinary person who came here. Their nostrils were almost raised to the sky, and their faces were full of ridicule. Seeing this, Tianyang's expression changed slightly, and he looked at the two guards. The guards glanced at Tianyang indifferently, and when they saw Ling Yuhan next to him, their eyes were immediately rooted to the ground, and they could not move away anymore. Their faces suddenly flushed red, and a trace of lust and greed flashed in the guards' eyes as they looked at Ling Yuhan. "May I know where you are from? I came with my husband." "I shouldn't be the one saying this." Ling Yuhan looked at the two guards' behavior, and a trace of disgust flashed in the depths of her eyes. Then she looked at Tianyang and hugged Tianyang's arm and said coquettishly. Hearing this, a trace of black lines appeared on Tianyang's head. What is this girl doing? However, since Ling Yuhan had already started acting, Tianyang naturally had to play along. "I'm from Bluestone City in the Firmament Territory. Today, I came to Shanghai Pass to buy some goods to sell back in my hometown," Tianyang said. The expression on his face was very realistic, and he didn't even blush when he spouted nonsense. Coupled with his ordinary-looking robes, the two guards immediately believed him a little. Hearing this, the two guards looked at each other and saw the trace of greed in each other's eyes. "So you're here to do business. Shanghai Pass has many goods from the central region. You've come to the right place to do business here." The guards smiled contemptuously. They were practitioners at the peak of the transforming origin realm, and they looked down on ordinary merchants the most. However, if you want to enter Shanghai Pass, you have to pay a price. The guard chuckled. Hearing this, Tianyang's eyes flashed, but he still asked on the surface, "What price?" 10 million gold coins. The guard laughed out loud. Hearing this, Tianyang's face suddenly changed, and a trace of coldness flashed in his eyes. How could he possibly not be able to tell from their performance towards Ling Yuhan? The reason why he cooperated with Ling Yuhan was purely to get information out of her. Now, he had completely gotten information out of her. Although this guard was called a guard, in fact, he was a person who took advantage of the fact that he was a guard to rob the people of their wealth. However, there was still a trace of shock and anger on Tianyang's face. How can it be? 10 million gold coins. How can an ordinary person like me take out that much? You can't take it out. Hearing this, the guard laughed and looked up and down at Ling Yuhan. If you can't take it out, then use your wife as a substitute. In the next moment, the guard soldier directly rushed over, stretched out a large hand that was like a cattail leaf fan, and grabbed towards Ling Yuhan. Seeing this, Ling Yuhan's face turned pale, and she shouted, "Husband!" At this moment, Tianyang also sneered, and the true essence of the second level of the Tao Fire Realm instantly exploded. "I think there's no need to pay this 10 million gold coins." Tianyang sneered, and in the next moment, a bolt of lightning directly burst out from his body. "I'll use both of your lives to pay the entrance fee." "What?" The guard's face changed drastically, and he looked at the ordinary merchant from just now with incomparable horror. Before he could speak, the lightning directly pierced through his heart. Immediately after, the spiritual fire of destruction burned, and the two guard soldiers directly died. They turned into ashes on the ground. Seeing this, the person behind Tianyang with a mournful expression, who thought that Tianyang would also be killed by the guard soldiers, suddenly widened his eyes. The dignified guard soldiers of Shanghai Pass were existences above others. Chapter 472. The guards of Shanghai Pass, which one of them wasn't awe-inspiring on normal days, ordering these passers-by here and there, arrogant and haughty people. In the end, today they were killed by a young man. Before they could even let out a scream, the two guards were directly electrocuted into charcoal by Tianyang's lightning. They couldn't be more dead. This young man has guts. These guards represent Shanghai Pass. Now that he has killed the guards of Shanghai Pass will definitely not let this go. It's not just Shanghai Pass. You have to know that Shanghai Pass is controlled by the Demon Blade sect. The sect master of the Demon Blade sect is a terrifying expert who is half a step into the sea of Soul Realm. This young man has directly offended the Demon Blade sect. Let's go quickly. If we are considered to be this kid's accomplice, we will lose a layer of skin even if we don't die. Standing behind Tianyang, the people who were preparing to enter the city saw this, and their faces turned pale with fright. They all fled. Tianyang didn't care much. He made a move purely because of Ling Yuhan. As for these passers-by, who didn't even have a chance to meet, if they died, then they died. It was none of his business. Demon Blade Sect? Sect Master, who is half a step into the sea of Soul Realm? It seems that the reason why Shanghai Pass has become like this is because of the Demon Blade Sect. Tianyang sneered, then directly stepped into Shanghai Pass with Ling Yuhan. At this moment, a furious roar came from the sky. The rolling pressure of the third heaven of the Dao Fire Realm directly pressed down on Tianyang. Peak of the second heaven of the Dao Fire Realm. You dare to kill my Demon Blade, sect disciples? Kid, you have guts. Since you dare to kill my Demon Blade sect disciples, then give me your life. An arrogant roar came from the sky. In the next moment, a sinister giant claw directly tore through the sky and ruthlessly attacked Tianyang. Seeing this, Tianyang sneered. Without turning his head, he flipped his wrist and struck out a devouring heaven seal. Boom! The giant claw and the devouring heaven seal fiercely collided. In the next moment, countless electric lights were aroused, and the devouring heaven seal instantly turned into a terrifying devouring vortex, ruthlessly swallowing the giant claw. What? Seeing this, that person's expression changed drastically. Just as he was about to escape, Tianyang had already turned around and attacked. A huge suction force erupted from Tianyang's palm, causing the surrounding space to distort. The middle-aged man who had attacked was shocked to discover that he couldn't move at all. Furthermore, even though he had used all his strength, he was still being pulled back by the suction force. What kind of trick is this? The middle-aged man's expression changed drastically. When he realized that he couldn't break free, he followed the suction force and rushed toward Tianyang. Die! Earth-tier low-grade martial skill, Goshawk's Giant Claw. The middle-aged man roared angrily as he instantly released the vital essence of a third-level Dao Fire Realm cultivator. There seemed to be a loud and clear cry of an eagle, and a huge claw that looked like an eagle's claw slashed toward Tianyang. Petty tricks. Tianyang smiled faintly. The Annihilation Spirit Fire turned into a wave of fire and swept out, directly burning the Goshawk's Giant Claw. At this time, Tianyang also increased the suction force. The middle-aged man's body was suddenly out of control, and Tianyang grabbed him by the neck. Ah! The middle-aged man's face instantly turned pale. If his neck was grabbed, didn't that mean that his life was in the hands of this person? Who are you? Why did you attack? Tianyang said indifferently. Hearing this, the middle-aged man, who felt that he couldn't fight against Tianyang, twitched his face and then said, I am the Devil Blade Sex. I am your head. No one spoke like you 10,000 years ago. You don't have the strength to act tough. Are you looking for a beating? Tianyang decisively slapped the middle-aged man. As an elder of the Devil Blade sect, he was like a local overlord in this place. When had he been slapped in the face like this? Even the sect leader of the Devil Blade sect didn't dare to do this. I am the great elder of the Devil Blade sect, Zhao Ping. You killed 2 of my Devil Blade sect's disciples guarding this place, so I took action. Zhao Ping said honestly, not daring to move at all. After all, his life was in Tianyang's hands. If he moved and accidentally touched one of Tianyang's tendons, he would be dead for sure if he exerted force with his palm. The great elder of the Devil Blade sect? Is this your level? Tianyang frowned slightly. Zhao Ping's strength was not weak. For the firmament territory, he was at the upper level of the pyramid, However, the Devil Blade sect controlled such a large Shanghai Pass. It was a little strange that the Great Elder only had this strength. The Devil Blade sect has two supreme elders, a deputy sect leader and a sect leader. Hearing Zhao Ping's words, Tianyang finally understood. It turned out that the first elder wasn't considered a big shot in the Demonic Blade sect. In this case, Zhao Ping's strength made sense. Master, do you want to kill him? He just had the intention to kill. At this time, Ling Yuhan skipped to Tianyang's side and said with a smile. Hearing this, Zhao Ping's butthole tightened. He stared dumbfoundedly at Ling Yuhan, who was smiling like a flower. He didn't expect such a beautiful girl to be so ruthless. Don't kill me. I can reveal everything that the Devil Blade sect has done in Shanghai Pass. Zhao Ping's body trembled. He thought that Tianyang was a traveling disciple of some big force who had come to the rescue of some injustice. Before Tianyang could ask, he spilled everything like beans in a bamboo tube. The more he spoke, the more gloomy Tianyang's face became. The Devil Blade sect was so evil. Robbing women and exploiting passers-by were already light crimes. In Shanghai Pass, the Devil Blade sect's evil deeds were too numerous to count. Shanghai Pass was originally just an ordinary checkpoint. It was located at the junction of the Central Region and the Firmament Territory, so its geographical location was excellent. Therefore, it gradually grew from a checkpoint to a city. However, at that time, the Devil Blade sect members who were chased by the big forces of the Central Region found the rich Shanghai Pass and directly seized it. With the terrifying strength of the Devil Blade sect, Shanghai Pass, an ordinary trading city, naturally could not resist. In order to seize Shanghai Pass, the Devil Blade sect directly attacked and slaughtered the whole city. Now, under the city gate where Tianyang stood, who knew how many innocent corpses were buried? They deserved to die. Tianyang's face was livid. He looked at the crimson ground under his feet, as if the ground was dyed red with blood. Beside him, Ling Yuhan's expression was also extremely ugly when he heard this. Master, although the world of martial arts is cruel, there is still a trace of order. The Devil Blade sect doesn't even care about a trace of order and directly committed such an inhumane act. Tianyang said coldly. Then, he directly threw Zhao Ping up. The spiritual fire of destruction entered his body, and a faint voice came out. Chapter 473. Go to the Demonic Blade sect. Zhao Ping looked at Tianyang in disbelief. According to common sense, after knowing the strength of the Demonic Blade sect, shouldn't this disciple of a big force leave directly? Ordinary large powers wouldn't sit by and watch as their disciples attacked a sect, even if that sect was from the corrupt path. Not going. Seeing Zhao Ping's expression, Tianyang sneered. Do you know what I just touched your back? Hearing this, Zhao Ping's expression changed drastically. His voice trembled as he said in horror, It's nothing strange. It's just a spiritual fire. If you lead the way with peace of mind, I can still take it back. If you don't, then I can only activate it directly and burn you to the point that you are no different from those two charcoal. Tianyang said with a bright smile. However, the words he said made Zhao Ping shudder. He had heard of such vicious means, but he never thought that it would appear on him. Zhao Ping panicked and hurriedly looked inside himself. Sure enough, he found that the spiritual fire of destruction was less than a centimeter below his heart. His face turned even paler, almost without a trace of blood. I'll lead the way, Zhao Ping said in a trembling voice. Then, he led Tianyang and Zhao Ping into Shanghai Pass. Shanghai Pass. There weren't many people near the city walls, but the deeper they went, the more prosperous it became. However, the bitterness on the faces of the passers-by could be seen. This prosperity was most likely not real. Isn't that the great elder of the Demonic Blade sect? Why is his face so pale? What's with the two people behind him? Could it be some big shot? Heavens, one Demonic Blade sect is already like this. If another one comes, then there's no need to stay in this place. Lower your voice. Back then, the Demonic Blade sect was... In short, let's go quickly. If the Demonic Blade sect is unhappy and starts a massacre, then it's over. Whispers came from the side. Tianyang heard all of them. His expression didn't change, but a trace of anger surged in his heart. Wherever they passed, even if they didn't say a word, these people would retreat in fear, even if it was a bustling street. When the great elder of the demonic blade sect appeared, everyone retreated. It was clear how terrifying the people of demonic blade sect were in the hearts of the people of Shanghai Pass. Master, these people of the demonic blade sect really should be killed. Ling Yuhan's face was ugly as she said. Hearing that, Tianyang nodded slightly, but his face was as calm as an ancient well. When they entered the city, they had already used their true essence to disguise themselves and slightly modified their facial features, making their entire person feel different. Originally, Tianyang only had the appearance of a handsome youth. Now he was at least 10 years older. Ling Yuhan used a black robe to cover her entire body. Unless one looked at her from the front, it was impossible to see Ling Yuhan's stunning face. After all, Ling Yuhan's appearance was too easy to attract a bunch of wild bees and butterflies. Tianyang wasn't willing to kill them one by one. Master, we're here. At this time, Zhao Ping stopped and said to Tianyang and Ling Yuhan in fear. Hearing that, Tianyang and Ling Yuhan nodded slightly and looked over. A huge black castle stood between the mountains. The area it occupied was at least larger than any of the 10 halls in Sky Blue College's inner courtyard. There were no more mortals around. Even the cultivators passing by were pale. They wished they could grow 8 legs and run away from this place, because this was where the demonic blade sect was located. Isn't this the great elder? Why are you back now? In front of the door, a guard looked at Zhao Ping in surprise. A greedy smile appeared on his face. Could it be that the great elder caught a few more beautiful women to enjoy in his home? Shut up, Zhao Ping snorted. I have something to discuss with the sect master. Open the door. These 2 are my guests. You can't neglect them. Hearing that, the guard was stunned. He looked behind Zhao Ping with some fear. Tianyang and Ling Yuhan were completely hidden in black robes. He muttered in his heart. What kind of guests were they? What made Zhao Ping act so out of character? Could they be demonic overlords from the central region? Yes. Although he was puzzled, the guard still opened the door. Normally, only the guard, the Grand Elder, and the sect master could open the door. Zhao Ping could only enter and leave at will when the working hours were over. After all, as a demonic cultivator, the demonic blade sect master was extremely sensitive to spies. This strict restriction naturally prevented many spies. Both of you, please, Zhao Ping said as they walked through the door. Tianyang nodded indifferently and walked in directly. Then, the 3 of them arrived at the sect master's residence. Zhao Ping, I heard you brought 2 guests over. You have something to discuss with me? What is it? The sect master of the demonic blade sect said indifferently. His majestic body hid an explosive power. His sharp gaze swept over Tianyang and Ling Yuhan. At this moment, Zhao Ping gritted his teeth and suddenly rushed out. Sect Master, enemy attack. I've been sealed, save. Boom. The moment Zhao Ping rushed out, Tianyang smiled slightly and directly detonated the spiritual fire of destruction in Zhao Ping's body. Blood splattered everywhere. Flesh and blood exploded. Zhao Ping's entire body was directly blown apart. The great elder of the demonic blade sect, a level 3 Dao Fire Realm cultivator, Zhao Ping. Dead. Zhao Ping's eyeballs flew out and seemed to be flickering with disbelief. Why did it explode now? Zhao Ping did not know that from the beginning to the end, Tianyang had never intended to let him go. Now that he saw the sect master of the demonic blade sect, Zhao Ping had no value and was naturally killed. Tianyang would not show any mercy to this kind of evil cultivator who was addicted to killing. The great elder was killed in front of his eyes. The sect master of the demonic blade sect stood up abruptly and looked at Tianyang and Ling Yuhan with a furious expression. Do you know what you're doing? Hearing this, Tianyang sneered and directly burned the black robe on his body. Of course, I'm here to kill you. Arrogant. The sect master of the demonic blade sect roared, and his body, turned into a demonic shadow that rushed forward. How dare you kill the great elder of the demonic blade sect? Die. In the next moment, a bloody light flashed and a 3-meter-long saber slashed down on Tianyang's head. At this moment, Tianyang smiled lightly and released the power of a true dragon. Bang! The blood-colored saber slashed down heavily. However, it was caught by Tianyang's palm and could not slash down any further. On the other hand, Tianyang did not move at all. His palm seemed to be made of metal, and there was not even a dent. What? Seeing this, the sect master of the demonic blade sect's expression changed drastically and was in disbelief. His blood-colored saber with an inferior-grade spirit weapon. There was actually someone who could catch it with his hand. Just how powerful was this person? Boom! At this moment, Tianyang squeezed his palm, and the inferior-grade spirit weapon was directly shattered. In the next moment, Tianyang punched through the air. Bang! The sect master of the demonic blade sect's body flew backward, blood spurting from his mouth and his aura weakening. If Tianyang added just a little more strength, the sect master of the demonic blade sect would almost be killed by Tianyang. Chapter 474. Cough, cough. Who are you? The demon blade sect leader roared as he kept coughing blood, his aura extremely weak as he glared at Tianyang. Possessing such strength, but only at the pinnacle of the second tier of Dao Fire Realm, he was definitely a genius disciple of a major faction. Disciples of major factions would not easily act, which was why the demon blade sect leader could not figure out who would have the guts to do so, no matter how hard he racked his brains. Was he not afraid of the people behind him? Behind me is the Sky Demon cult of the Central Region. You won't get away with it if you kill me. The demon blade sect leader roared. Tianyang narrowed his eyes at that. The Sky Demon cult? According to the information given to him by Sky Blue College, the Sky Demon cult was a second-rate faction in the Central Region. Although it was a second-rate faction, there was no lack of Sea of Soul Realm elites among them, and they were at least rank 4 in terms of sex. In the Central Region, from top to bottom, there were super factions, first-rate factions, second-rate factions, third-rate factions, and unrated factions. The super factions were naturally the holy grounds of martial arts, and there were even Heaven Ascension elites among them. In this world where martial arts were declining, one could only imagine the power of Heaven Ascension elites. Back then, Tianyang had visited several holy grounds of martial arts to spar, and the Star Swordplay sect leader Zhou Xing and Sword Saint Zhou Xing were both his good friends and formidable foes. Now that Tianyang had come to the Central Region, the first thing he wanted to see was the Star Swordplay sect. As a former holy ground of martial arts, Sword Saint Zhou Xing, who is second only to the Tianji Sword Emperor, should still exist even after 10,000 years. On the other hand, the Sky Demon cult, a second-rate faction of the Central Region, had at least 3 Sea of Soul Realm elites. In terms of power, they were equal to Sky Blue College, but of course, they were much weaker in terms of influence. Still, the Sky Demon cult was a great threat to Tianyang now. The Sky Demon cult? Tianyang sneered and looked at the Demon Blade sect master in front of him. Do you really think I'll give a damn about you? Hearing this, the Demon Blade sect master's expression changed drastically. Looking at Tianyang, he asked, "Who are you?" "I am an inner disciple of the Heavenly Yin Mountain by Ying." Tianyang spouted nonsense. In any case, his face had already been disguised, and this Devil Blade sect master definitely wouldn't be able to see through it. So what if he spouted some nonsense? Moreover, Tianyang also remembered the leader of the Eastern Sky Dome region's Heavenly Yin Mountain Division, Bai Ying, who was rumored to be able to fight against a first-level Sea of Soul Realm warrior at half-step Sea of Soul Realm. Although he had destroyed the Heavenly Yin Mountain branch and killed the Heavenly Yin Mountain branch's general manager who had threatened him, he was still a Heavenly Yin Mountain branch's general manager. However, no one knew where the White Shadow went. Now that he had a chance to swindle the White Shadow and expose his whereabouts, Tianyang naturally wouldn't let it go. Hearing this, the corner of Ling Yuhan's mouth twitched. She hurriedly turned her head away, afraid that her abnormal appearance would be discovered by the Demon Blade Sect Master. An inner disciple of the Heavenly Mountain Division, this master's face is really thick, blindly spouting nonsense without blushing. But I like it. Heavenly Mountain. Buying. Hearing this, the Demon Blade Sect Master's expression changed drastically. Heavenly Mountain was a powerful existence comparable to a peak first-rate force in the Central region. This Heavenly Mountain often accepted people's requests to kill someone. Could it be that he was targeted by some expert? Thinking of this, the Demon Blade Sect Master suddenly felt bitter. Being targeted by the Heavenly Mountain, he could be considered to have died a worthy death. Now, do you have any last words? Tianyang's face was arrogant as he looked down at the Demon Blade Sect Master in front of him. The rumored arrogance of a first-rate force's disciple was vividly acted out. Seeing this, the Demon Blade Sect Master sighed. The next moment, his eyes widened in anger. Even if it's the Heavenly Mountain, it won't be that easy to kill me. In the next moment, the Demon Blade Sect Master rushed out. A blood-red light flashed in his hand as he ruthlessly attacked Tianyang. Stubborn. Tianyang sneered. Circulating his true dragon body, the annihilation spirit fire burned in his hand. In the next moment, facing this punch, he directly threw a simple straight punch. 108 true dragon tattoos bloomed. Rolling dragon power erupted, along with the tyrannical might of the annihilation spirit fire. One punch. The Demon Blade Sect's patriarch was sent flying, and his body was burned to ashes. The Heavenly, demonic sect won't let you go, even if her Heavenly the Demon Blade Sect Master, who only had one breath left, roared. In the end, before he could finish the word mountain, he collapsed to the ground. The power of the annihilation spirit fire lay in the word annihilation. The reason he was able to speak with one breath left was entirely because Tianyang had held back. Otherwise, this half-step sea of Soul Realm Demonic Blade Sect Master would have died long ago with a single punch. The current Tianyang's physical strength was comparable to a first-layer sea of Soul Realm expert. Wasn't it child's play to kill an ordinary half-step sea of Soul Realm expert? Master, he's holding a communication token. He spread the news. At this moment, Ling Yuhan walked up and looked at the communication token tightly clutched in the Demon Blade Sect Master's hand with a grave expression. Hearing this, Tianyang faintly smiled. No matter. In any case, they'll only find trouble with Bai-Yin for a short time. By the time they find me, it might already be time for me to find trouble with them. All right, we can go now. Tianyang chuckled and flew out of the explosion. He stood in the sky above Shanghai Pass, his black robe fluttering in the wind. Tianyang, on the other hand, looked indifferently at the castle that had been built on countless corpses as the annihilation spiritual flame burned fiercely in his hand. Then, he threw it into the castle. Boom! The annihilation spirit fire instantly spread into a monstrous fire. With the power of the third-level spirit fire, these people were killed without any resistance. As for the three-peak Third Sky Dao Fire Realm Supreme Elders and Deputy Sect Master, Tianyang directly killed them. Not long after, there were no more living creatures in the entire castle. The Demon Blade Sect was completely annihilated. The next moment, Tianyang summoned the Heaven Origin Tower and flew in the direction of Star's Swordplay Sect in his memory. The people in Shanghai Pass stared dumbfoundedly at the castle that they didn't even dare to look at. The raging fire gradually engulfed it. At night, the huge fire caused by the annihilation spirit fire continued. In the midst of the flames, countless residents of Shanghai Pass realized one thing. The Demon Blade Sect that oppressed and enslaved them no longer existed from today onwards. Yeah, the whole city cheered. Tianyang, who did a good deed without leaving his name, controlled the Heaven Origin Tower and entered the Central Region. Chapter 475. Central Region, Heavenly Demon Cult. An extremely old man sat in a room, his fingers trembling as he looked at the communication token in his hand. The aura of a second-level sea of Soul Realm instantly erupted. Heavenly Mountain Buying? Heavenly Mountain, you've already exposed yourself as a member of my Heavenly Demon cult, and you still dare to kill me. Heavenly Mountain, you're bullying my Heavenly Demon cult. The old man roared, and the entire room shook from his roar. In the next moment, the old man's face suddenly calmed down. Crushing the communication token in his hand, the old man said coldly, "Pass down my orders. Immediately search Heavenly Mountain for traces of an assassin called Buying. No matter how strong Heavenly Mountain is, my Heavenly Demon cult is not something you can bully as you wish." Yes. At this moment, a man suddenly walked out from the shadows of the room with a sinister smile on his face. Should I kill him or cripple him? You might not be able to beat him. He's a powerful existence that could easily kill the demonic blade sex leader. Once you find him, immediately send word. Don't act rashly. The old man shook his head and said. Hearing this, the man's expression changed slightly, revealing a hint of dissatisfaction, but he still lowered his head. Yes, Grand Elder, this is the Star Sword sect that Master spoke of. So powerful. At this moment, somewhere in the central region, Ling Yuhan looked through the Heaven Tower at the majestic buildings not far away and exclaimed in shock. Even though it was dozens of miles away, Ling Yuhan could still feel the abundant heaven and earth spirit chi around her. The heaven and earth spirit chi in the central region was 1 to 2 times that of Sky Blue College, and the closer to the center, the more so it was. And the heaven and earth spirit chi here was 5 times that of Sky Blue College. In other words, it was more than dozens of times that of the Northern Wilderness region. The heaven and earth spirit chi comes from the central region, so it's not strange that the heaven and earth spirit chi here is abundant. If a spirit gathering formation is set up here, it might even be 100 times that of the Northern Wilderness region. Legend has it that the spiritual chi of heaven and earth in the center of the central region is hundreds of times more than in the Northern Wilderness region, even without a spirit gathering array, Tianyang said indifferently. However, unlike Ling Yuhan's shock, Tianyang's brows were slightly furrowed. This place was indeed majestic and imposing, but it seemed to be different from what he remembered. Let's go down and take a look, Tianyang said in a low voice. Then, he put away the heavenly pagoda and soared into the sky. He flew toward the city below the towering sect. Releasing the aura of the peak of the second layer of the Tao Fire Realm, the two of them did not need to pay the entrance fee and directly walked in. Once they entered, Tianyang went straight to his destination. It was the most famous organization in the central region, had the largest sphere of influence, and was also the one with the strongest intelligence-gathering ability. His footsteps were quick, and Ling Yuhan followed with a puzzled face. Not long later, Tianyang arrived in front of the Heavenly Secret Tower. It looked to be an ordinary small building, but at the instant they arrived at the entrance, Ling Yuhan's face slightly changed. In her senses, this small Heavenly Secret Tower actually had more than 3/3 layer of the Tao Fire Realm and a half-step sea of Soul Realm. The strength of the Heavenly Secret Tower surpasses even first-rate forces, so there are naturally hidden dragons and crouching tigers, Tianyang reminded, and then he walked in. The Heavenly Secret Tower was very quiet. Although there were many people, most of them maintained silence, as they did not want to break the mystery of the Heavenly Secret Tower. On the other hand, Tianyang took a few steps and walked before the counter. May I know what information you want? A middle-aged man at the peak of the 9th level of the Origin Transformation stage smiled. Tianyang did not hesitate in the slightest. The closest sect to this place, as well as the information of the Star Sword sect from 10,000 years ago. Hearing this, the middle-aged man's brows raised, and he was slightly surprised. The most recent sect was the hot news of the Heavenly Secret Tower's branch in this city. Tianyang asking about this wouldn't be very special. But the Star Sword sect from 10,000 years ago? Wait a moment. I'll get it for you right away. People that were capable of knowing about things from 10,000 years ago were mostly extraordinary people. So, even if Tianyang's age was unbelievably young, The middle-aged man didn't say anything. Tianyang waited slowly as well. In next to no time, a person that was completely enveloped in a black robe arrived by Tianyang's side. The middle-aged man lightly nodded to Tianyang as a gesture. "Follow me." The black-robed man spoke. Subsequently, Tianyang followed, and Ling Yuhan naturally followed as well. The black-robed man glanced at Ling Yuhan, and his expression remained calm as he walked into a private room. The most recent information of the sect is 300 low-grade spirit stones. The information of the Star Sword sect from 10,000 years ago is 10,000 low-grade spirit stones. Within the private room, the black-robed man spoke indifferently. Tianyang naturally readily took it out when he heard this. So long as the information is sufficient. Don't worry about the Heaven's Secret Tower. The black-robed man's tone was calm as he took the 10,300 low-grade spirit stones from Tianyang and began to explain. As expected, the most recent sect wasn't the Star Sword sect, but a first-rate faction in the central region known as the Mountain River sect. It was a first-rate faction, although it had only risen recently and its foundation was slightly lacking. It was still much stronger than the Sky Demon cult. The most powerful sect leader was a cultivator at the 6th level of the Sea of Soul Realm. If it had been 10,000 years ago, he would have been a spirit king. As for the Star Sword sect, 10,000 years ago, the Star Swordplay sect was indeed located here. However, 10,000 years ago, when the great destruction of the civilization descended, the Star Swordplay sect suffered heavy losses. Then, 2,000 years later, a newly risen sect charged straight into the heavily damaged Star Sword sect and chased them out. Later on, that sect was replaced by several other sections. Now, it was the Mountain River sect that was in charge of this treasured land. As for the Star Sword sect, it was now located in a corner at the edge of the central region. It was no longer as glorious as it was 10,000 years ago and could barely be considered a third-rate faction. Tianyang sighed at those words. The Star Sword sect had been a holy land of martial arts 10,000 years ago and could even be called a supreme sect. Back then, if the Tianji Sword Emperor hadn't appeared out of nowhere and defeated Sword Saint Zhou Xing, Sword Saint Zhou Xing would probably be called Sword Emperor Zhou Xing. It was a pity that the great destruction of civilization had maimed the Star Sword sect, reducing the great holy land of martial arts to a third-rate faction that was at risk of being destroyed at any moment. Having witnessed the Star Sword sect's glory, Tianyang was naturally in awe. Then, what is the name of the sect that chased the Star Sword sect out? Tianyang asked again. The black-robed man's expression remained unchanged. 1,000 low-grade spirit stones. All right, that sect is called the Purple Sun sect. After thousands of years, it has also declined. Now, it is only a normal third-rate power, with only one peak half-step sea of Soul's realm leader. In Chapter 476, in the air, Tianyang controlled the Heaven Tower and flew toward the eastern part of the central region. Tianyang's expression was extremely ugly. He stared into the distance, and the clouds under his feet retreated rapidly. Tianyang had pushed the Heaven Tower's speed to the limit. The Star Swordplay sect is still suffering from a catastrophe. Tianyang's expression was extremely ugly. He looked into the distance, and the inner yuan in his body surged. He sped up without holding back. The Heaven Tower's speed had reached the limit of its limits. The tens of thousands of rune modules inside and outside were all activated, absorbing the inner yuan to increase its speed. The Star Swordplay sect was the sect Tianyang had the deepest relationship with in his previous life, other than the Sky Blue Sword sect. Back then, when he and Sword Saint Zhou Xing were fighting for the position of Sword Emperor, he had gone to the Star Swordplay sect to cause trouble. Zhou Xing had become his rival and good friend. Now, the Star Swordplay sect was facing destruction. Faster, Tianyang roared. The Heaven Tower trembled and turned into a stream of light, flying into the distance. Is my Star Swordplay sect really finished? In the eastern part of the central region, the Star Swordplay sect, an old man looked at the raging fire in front of him, and two streams of tears flowed from his eyes. Haha, I only found out after hearing that the sword Saint Zhou Xing, who was almost as famous as the Tianji sword emperor 10,000 years ago, was the ancestor of the Star's swordplay sect. If we get the inheritance of the sword Saint Zhou Xing, our Purple Sun sect might be able to shake off the title of a third-rate sect and return to being a second-rate sect. In front of the old man, a burly man with a bare upper body laughed maniacally. The inner yuan of the third heaven of the Tao fire realm surged rapidly, and the sword in his hand flashed with blood. At this moment, a young man suddenly appeared from the side and pierced the burly man's heart with his sword. Bastard! Thousands of years ago, when you attacked us, we tolerated it and didn't take revenge when you were weak. Now that you heard about our ancestor, you came to kill us? Do you have any conscience? The young man was bathed in blood as he roared. At this moment, a burly man next to him laughed sinisterly. You didn't take revenge. That's because you didn't take action. Now that we're taking action for our own benefit, what's wrong with that? As for conscience, in the martial world, this is a burden. Die! The burly man laughed loudly, and the next moment, the axe in his hand. Mystic rank, peerless martial skill, purple sun blast. Iz's pupils shrank as he recognized this move, and he roared, I... of... In the next moment, the young man leaped up and swung the sword in his hand, directly cutting off the burly man's head. Seeing this, the Purple Sun sect disciples who were looting at the side all put down the treasures in their hands and rushed over. How dare you kill Li Hu? So what if you're a first Sea of Soul Realm expert? You're already heavily injured by my ancestor, and you still dare to act rashly. This kid is probably only 20 or 30 years old, and he's already at the first Sea of Soul Realm. If we let him grow, my Purple Sun sect will be in danger. Let's kill him now. The Purple Sun sect disciples and elders all roared, releasing the aura of second sky and third sky of Tao Fire Realm. They charged at the young man. The young man saw this and laughed bitterly. He had already exhausted all his strength to use the Star Annihilation Sword. Now, he didn't even have the strength to move a finger. If he hadn't expected that the old man with 1 foot in the grave was actually a first Sea of Soul Realm ancestor, he wouldn't have been so careless as to be seriously injured. Sword Spirit Zhou Tong, the legendary senior brother of Sky Blue College, was actually forced into such a state by a group of second sky and third sky of Tao Fire Realm experts who couldn't even compare to inner core disciples. Zhou Tong immediately let out a bitter smile. It was true that a fallen tiger would be bullied by dogs, and a plucked phoenix was inferior to a chicken. Thinking of Sky Blue College, Zhou Tong remembered the young man he met in the Tower of Trials a few months ago. Zhang Xian's cultivation was weak, but his mastery of the way of the sword was far superior to his. He had the sword spirit body, which was already the peak of sword Dao talent. However, he didn't see the slightest trace of a special constitution on that young man's body, but he still crushed him. If he didn't have the advantage of his cultivation base, he would have been defeated by that young man in 2 or 3 moves. What would happen if he had that kind of sword Dao talent? Zhou Tong lay on the ground, looking at the crowd charging at him with bitterness in his heart. At this moment, the Purple Sun sect people looked at Zhou Tong, who was lying on the ground and no longer had the strength to fight, and laughed wildly. Huh, he's completely injured and powerless. Now is the best time to kill him. Attack together. Mystic level martial technique, Purple Sun explosion. Quasi-Earth level martial technique, Mountain splitting axe. Earth level martial technique, Mountain shattering fist. Mystic level martial technique, Collapsing fist. Everyone roared furiously one after another, charging towards Zhou Tong. But just at this time, a shadow suddenly covered this group of people. Everyone was stunned and raised their heads to look. Even Zhou Tong was no exception. At this moment, streaks of heaven and earth spirit energy gathered and countless secret runes activated. A terrifying pillar of light descended from the sky, Boom, 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 boom. In various parts of the Star Swordplay sect, countless Purple Sun sect people who were burning, killing, and looting were directly killed by this terrifying pillar of light. Countless disciples and elders who survived the disaster looked in horror at their enemies who had exploded into a bloody mist. Their faces were full of disbelief. And to deal with those Purple Sun sect disciples and elders who were attacking Zhou Tong, that pillar of light was also the most terrifying. Boom! The pillar of light that seemed to connect the heavens and the earth completely descended. Those people didn't even have the slightest chance before their bodies were directly blasted into a bloody mist. However, Zhou Tong, who was close at hand, was unscathed. Zhou Tong's face was full of shock. What had happened? At this moment, the shadow also shrunk rapidly. In a short while, it completely disappeared. What replaced it was two young people who descended from the sky and landed in front of Zhou Tong. Because of the sunlight, Zhou Tong couldn't see the faces of these two people clearly. He only vaguely felt that they were a little familiar. At this moment, that person directly pulled Zhou Tong up and smiled. Long time no see, senior brother Zhou Tong. Chapter 477. Long time no see, senior brother Zhou Tong. Tianyang smiled faintly. Zhou Tong's eyes widened. Sky. Sun. The distance between Sky Blue College and Star Swordplay sect could no longer be described as thousands or tens of thousands of miles. It was a distance of hundreds of thousands or even millions of miles. If Tianyang took the wrong path along the way, it would be a distance of more than 10 million miles. And now, Tianyang was right in front of him. It must be known that no one in the Sky Blue Academy knew of Zhou Tong's background. How did you find this place? Zhou Tong asked. Tianyang smiled. I came to Star's Swordplay sect, but I didn't expect to meet senior brother Zhou Tong. Since senior brother Zhou Tong is here, I have to help. Heavenly Sun sect. Hearing this, Zhou Tong nodded. Then he was stunned. You were the one who shot out those light pillars? That powerful destructive power, as well as that extremely precise and terrifying control, caused Zhou Tong to believe that the person who had done that was his ancestor. In the end, it was the junior brother he met in Sky Blue College's inner court trial tower. It's from my spiritual weapon. Tianyang chuckled. Then he shook his space bag. All right, let's stop talking nonsense. Healing is more important now. Tianyang took out a few pills and flicked them into Zhou Tong's hand. Zhou Tong looked at Tianyang gratefully, then swallowed the elixirs and sat down cross-legged. He circulated his true yuan and began to refine the elixirs. Tianyang didn't really care about the pills. Other than his identity as the Alchemy Supreme, there was another important reason. There were all kinds of pills and spiritual stones in his space bag. It was a disaster. When they heard that Tianyang was leaving, the people of Sky Blue College took out a bunch of elixirs and spirit stones and gave them to Tianyang. Students of the 10th Hall, like Tang Fingyu, were extremely grateful to the Tianyang who had led them back to their former glory. A considerable portion of it had been given to them by them. As for the other 9 palaces, they also sent some spirit stones. It wasn't a lot, but it was a sign of respect for the number 1 student in the inner campus. As for Big Head, it was the Wang family property that Zhou Ling and the 2 deans had given him after they had finished plundering the Wang family. The Wang clan's wealth was not bad. Most of it was spirit stones. Occasionally, Tianyang could use some pills. However, Zhou Linger didn't give him a chance to explain and directly stuffed him with handfuls of medicinal pills, glorifying it as the 3 months of cultivation resources that Tianyang couldn't claim. Wasn't he treating Tianyang like a fool? Not to mention the fact that the 10th Palace stole 90% of the cultivation resources from the 9th Palace and took first place in the 10th Palace. Even if they robbed the other 9 palaces, took first place in the 10th Palace, and then accumulated for 30 months, they still wouldn't have so much. Healing types, explosive types, and cultivation types. They had almost everything that one could think of, and even those that one shouldn't have. Tianyang guessed that Zhou Ling and Home Master Zhou were abusing their positions for personal gain by ransacking the 10th Palace's treasury. Of course, The 10th Palace Lord himself was very happy to do so. Using some medicinal pills to befriend a rising star was a profitable deal no matter how one looked at it. However, Tianyong still returned some of the medicinal pills that he really didn't need, such as explosive types. Once the sky-devouring secret technique was used, who could compete with it? Wouldn't it be a waste to keep them? That girl. I hope she can be more mature after becoming Hall Master. Tianyong rubbed his temples in distress. At this moment, the star's swordplay sect elder, who had just recovered from the spectacular scene of countless enemies being killed in an instant, suddenly stood up. He walked straight to Tianyong and thanked him gratefully. "Young hero, thank you for saving my life," the elder said shakily, bending his body and almost falling to his knees. Seeing this, Tianyong hurried over and helped him up. "Zhou Tong is my senior brother from Sky Blue College. Now that I've come here and seen my senior brother in trouble, I naturally have to help. Elder, there's no need to be so courteous. Go and rest first," Tianyong said. Hearing this, the elder insisted on kneeling and thanking him. Tianyong had to spend a lot of effort to persuade him before he finally allowed the elder to go and check on the situation. Then, the elder brought the remaining members of the star's swordplay sect over. At this time, Zhou Tong had also begun to refine the medicinal effects of the medicinal pills. His injuries had mostly healed, and his combat strength had returned to 50% of his usual. He also had some confidence in dealing with the Purple Sun sect's forefather, who was about to kick the bucket at any moment. After waking up, Zhou Tong walked over to the hundreds of Star's swordplay sect disciples who had gathered. "Young Lord," when they saw Zhou Tong walking over, they all cried out excitedly. If it weren't for the young lord leading them in a bloody battle, they wouldn't have been able to hold on until that moment. In a war, having a Sea of Soul Realm expert and not having one were two different concepts. Moreover, as the young lord, Zhou Tong had taken the lead and fought in the most chaotic part of the battlefield. This naturally earned him the respect of the Star's swordplay sect disciples. Yes, this time, the Purple Sun sect almost completely annihilated our Star's swordplay sect. Most of the outer disciples died in this battle. Even some of the inner disciples and elders died in the battle. A total of 1,827 people died. Zhou Tong's face was filled with sorrow. Hearing this, the whole crowd fell silent. Some people secretly sobbed. Among the 1,000 people who died, there was no lack of their relatives and friends. But this time, because of Brother Tianyong's help, we won. At this time, Zhou Tong raised his head and pushed Tianyong in front of him. If Brother Tianyong hadn't arrived in time and used a powerful spirit weapon to kill the enemy, I'm afraid my Star Swordplay sect would have been annihilated, Zhou Tong said loudly. Hearing this, everyone turned their eyes to Tianyong, revealing an incomparably grateful expression. If Tianyong hadn't arrived, they would have been dead. Long live the young lord. Long live the Lord Tianyong. Everyone shouted. At this time, Tianyong felt a little uncomfortable. He coughed lightly and said, "May I ask, are you the culprits of all this hatred?" Tianyong said. Hearing this, everyone trembled. Their eyes burned with raging flames of hatred as they roared. Hatred! The sound wave was so loud that even the palace nearby was on the verge of collapse. Hearing this, Tianyong smiled and looked at this group of people. "It seems that you still have some guts. Now, your young lord and I will bring some people and kill our way to the Purple Sun sect. If we don't destroy Lulan, we won't return. Ask, who wants to go?" Tianyong said loudly. Hearing this, the entire crowd fell silent for a moment. In the next moment, there was an earth-shaking battle cry. "Me! The Purple Sun sect killed my wife and took my son. This hatred is irreconcilable. Let me go. If not for the Purple Sun sect, my child would have been born. And not like this, one corpse and two lives." "Me! Me! Me!" everyone roared. Hearing this, Tianyong smiled. "Everyone whose cultivation is at the first level of the Tao Fire Realm and above, follow me." In the next moment, Tianyong summoned the Heavenly Pagoda and enlarged it to the extreme. The first level was enough to accommodate thousands of people. Also, leave 5 elders behind to take charge of the situation, so that people won't search the sect. Tianyang commanded in an orderly manner. Hearing this, everyone nodded and automatically divided into 2 groups. One group stayed behind to guard the Stars swordplay sect, and the other group followed Tianyang to take revenge. Come in. Tianyang stepped into the heavenly pagoda, and the 200 or so Dao Fire Realm cultivators who were separated also walked in. Chapter 478. Several hundred miles away, the Purple Sun sect. A tall and burly man was tied to a red-hot soldering iron, his entire body wrapped in chains. His expression was extremely ugly. Staring at the middle-aged man who was smiling sinisterly, the man cursed loudly. Bastard! Thousands of years ago, your Purple Sun sect slaughtered us once, and now you're here again. Not killing you in the chaos hundreds of years ago was the biggest mistake our ancestors ever made. The man roared. The middle-aged man laughed coldly in response. That's right. It was the biggest mistake, and now it's leading to the destruction of your Stars swordplay sect. Legend has it that Zhou Xing's legacy was comparable to a sword emperor 10,000 years ago. TSK. If our Purple Sun sect gets our hands on it, we'll be a second-rate faction comparable to the Sky Demon cult. The middle-aged man laughed maniacally. The man laughed coldly in response, ignoring the burning of the soldering iron on his back. Ancestors' legacy? If there really is one, how could our Star Swordplay sect be a third-rate faction? That's because you don't know. How could you know when even the Secret Tower doesn't? If I hadn't accidentally obtained a record from 10,000 years ago, I would have been kept in the dark as well. The middle-aged man laughed disdainfully. Either way, your son is probably dead now that our forefather has made his move. The destruction of the Stars swordplay sect is today. Thud, thud, thud. Suddenly, a series of panicked footsteps could be heard, directly interrupting the middle-aged man's words. Sect leader, this is bad. The Stars swordplay sect is here. A disciple who was bathed in blood roared wildly at the middle-aged man in the cell. The middle-aged man's expression changed at that. How is that possible? Zhou Tong was gravely injured by our forefather and is not far from death. How could he come to our Purple Sun sect? Yes, the disciple seemed to want to say something, but that was when a dazzling sword radiance pierced his chest, leaving him unable to finish his most important words. At this time, the eyes of the man who was bound by chains suddenly burst out with a bright light, and he laughed wantonly. Ha ha ha! Our Stars swordplay sect is blessed with great fortune. How could we die at the hands of despicable scum like you? My son has come to save me. The man seemed to have forgotten the torture he had suffered behind his back and laughed wantonly. Hearing this, the middle-aged man's face turned ashen. At this moment, a terrifying explosion resounded. Boom! The wall of the cell exploded instantly. Rocks flew everywhere, and dust scattered everywhere. The aura of a first-level Sea of Souls realm warrior exploded. Father, I'm late. At this time, Zhou Tong held his sword and looked at the tied-up man. His eyes were moist as he choked with sobs. Hearing this, the man laughed out loud. I'm not late. As long as you're here, you're not late. At this moment, the middle-aged man's face turned completely gloomy. He looked at Zhou Tong and said, I didn't expect you to still be alive. However, with such heavy injuries, how can he recover so quickly? I want to see if the legendary sword spirit Zhou Tong is really that strong. In the next moment, the middle-aged man directly shot out explosively, charging towards Zhou Tong. What a coincidence! I also want to see if the Purple Sun sect's leader, Sheng Pingsheng, is really that strong. Zhou Tong laughed out loud. With a few casual slashes, he cut off the chains binding the man. In the next moment, he directly collided with the middle-aged man. Kill! 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 The morale of the Stars swordplay sect was high as they fought crazily in the battlefield. Originally, the Purple Sun sect had already gone all out to destroy the Stars swordplay sect. The loss was not small. Now, with the sudden attack of the Stars swordplay sect, they were directly thrown into chaos. Even with the advantage in numbers, the Purple Sun sect disciples and elders were still suppressed by the Star's swordplay sect. When enemies meet, their eyes turn red. Now, the Star's swordplay sect disciples continued to fight even if they were heavily injured. It was naturally easy to deal with the disorganized and dispirited Purple Sun sect disciples. Who slaughtered my sect disciples? At this moment, an old, angry roar was heard. A figure suddenly appeared in the center of the battlefield, and the pressure of a peak sea of soul realm expert burst out. Countless people were hit by this wave of chi and were heavily injured. Some of the Star's swordplay sect disciples who were already heavily injured were directly crushed to death by the pressure of a sea of soul realm expert. He really came. Seeing the tragic deaths of his own people, Tianyang's face became extremely ugly. The stick's sword in his hand slowly shook, and in the next moment, the heavenly sword was released. Martial soul talent, Devour Sky. Although the Devour Sky secret skill in the central region did not have the massive amount of demon chi in the lair of Thousand Devils, there was a massive amount of heaven and earth spiritual chi. Tianyang's chi immediately began to rise. At this moment, the source of the pressure turned his head and looked at Tianyang. It's you. It's you who killed countless of my Purple Sun sect disciples. The old man roared and ruthlessly attacked Tianyang. At this moment, Tianyang's cultivation had also risen to the peak of the third sky of Dao Fire Realm. The stick's sword in his hand flashed with lightning as he aimed at the old man and slashed out. Thunder God's sword, Thunder God's descent. Thousands of lightning gathered and turned into an incomparably terrifying sword chi, ruthlessly attacking the old man. Seeing this, the old man's face changed slightly. The true yuan of a peak sea of soul realm expert was released from his body. Break for me! The old man roared and blasted out with his palm, scattering the sword chi. However, there were still countless sword chi that came after him. Damn guy! Purple Sun explosion! The old man roared. His true yuan condensed into countless purple light balls and shot towards the countless Thunder God sword chi. In the next moment, the countless purple light balls exploded with a bang. Tianyang's move was also dissolved by the old man. As expected of a peak sea of soul realm expert of the Purple Sun sect, this strength is indeed not for show. Tianyang faintly smiled. On the stick's sword in his hand, strands of nether death chi twined. At this moment, the old man also clearly saw Tianyang's face. A trace of shock appeared on his face. Then he laughed nastily. Little bastard, you killed so many of my Purple Sun sex people. Pay with your life. Earth tier, martial skill, Purple Sun, sky burning palm. The old man sneered and directly attacked. As for Tianyang, his expression still did not change. A Sea of Soul realm expert was perhaps a difficult enemy for him to contend against before. However, after a month of settling and digesting, although Tianyang did not obtain any fortuitous encounters, his battle strength had once again skyrocketed. Using the sky-devouring secret technique, killing a peak sea of soul realm expert was nothing difficult. Stick Sword Art, Fourth Sword, Azura Dao. Chapter 479. River of Sticks Sword Style, Fourth Sword, Dao, of Azura. Tianyang sneered and released his killing intent. In an instant, it turned into a horrifying slaughter territory. The Purple Sun House's forefather, on the other hand, crashed headfirst into the slaughter domain. Instantly, an endless amount of killing intent, murderous intent, and murderous intent all materialized and attacked the Purple Sun sect's forefather's mind. The Purple Sun sect's forefather's body shook, and he fell into a daze. At this time, the bloody sword light had already arrived. Something's wrong. The Purple Sun sect's forefather instantly woke up and wanted to use his chi to defend himself. However, it was too late. Boom! The sword of Azura instantly shattered the Purple Sun sect's forefather's defense and sent him flying. Puff! Spitting out a mouthful of blood, the Purple Sun sect's forefather's face turned pale. At this moment, he looked at Tianyang in disbelief. This is a territory A mere Tao Fire Realm cultivator can have a territory. The Purple Sun Sect's forefather was shocked. Then, this shock quickly turned into naked greed. If I can get this slaughter territory, you want to leave? You don't seem to be qualified. Tianyang sneered. In the next moment, he used the dragon's 9 heavens roaming steps and attacked. River of Sticks sword style, second style, bridge of helplessness. Purple sun explosion. The two terrifying attacks collided in midair, and instantly, a loud explosion erupted. Boom! The space around them trembled as violent energy ripples spread out. Just the aftermath alone was enough to turn everything around the two of them into ruins. So strong. Run. Seeing this, the Purple Sun Sect's and Star's Swordplay Sect's disciples' faces changed. They couldn't care less about fighting anymore. If they stayed, they would only be killed. No wonder it was said that a battle between powerhouses could decide the outcome of a battle. This destructive power was too strong. He blocked it. Seeing Tianyang's calm face, the Purple Sun Sect's forefather's heart shook. He knew the power of his Purple Sun explosion best. With this move, even a half-step sea of Soul Realm cultivator would be crippled, if not dead. He didn't expect Tianyang, a Tao Fire Realm cultivator, to be able to block his Purple Sun explosion. However, what he didn't know was how rich Tianyang's combat experience was as a great emperor. Tianyang could see through the Purple Sun explosion's weakness. With his true dragon's body, it was not surprising that he was unscathed. After living for hundreds of years, it's time. Tianyang smiled faintly. In the next moment, the stick sword in his hand exploded with light. Stick sword art. 3 moves combined into one. Boom! Was Chi. His Chi. Chi's Chi. 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 He's Chi's Tion. What kind of method is this? Hurriedly expelling the Chi of death from the wounds, the Ziyang house's forefather said with lingering fear. Hearing this, Tianyang smiled. It's nothing. It's just a normal Chi of death. However, looking at your shriveled appearance, it seems that the destructive power of this sword strike is truly quite great, Tianyang said with a smile. Hearing this, the Purple Sun Sect's patriarch's face immediately darkened. After so many years, you are the first Tao Fire Realm cultivator who dares to say such words in front of me. Oh, I'm really flattered, Tianyang said calmly. He wasn't afraid that the Purple Sun Sect's forefather would do something behind his back. He would deal with whatever came his way. Plus, his sky-devouring secret skill hadn't been fully unleashed yet. If Tianyang used it to its fullest extent, his cultivation base would reach half-step C of Soul Realm easily. At that time, killing this old man would also be a piece of cake. But that wouldn't be fun, would it? So, since you're the first, then become the first Tao Fire Realm cultivator to die under this move of mine. The Purple Sun Sect's patriarch roared ferociously. Purple light erupted from his hand as he charged towards Tianyang. Extreme Earth Tier Martial Skill, Purple Sun Star Destruction. The Purple Sun Sect's patriarch roared. The purple light in his hand also completely erupted as he charged towards Tianyang at an extremely fast speed. Looking at the strength of that demonic light, if Tianyang was really hit by this move, then even with the strength of the true dragon body, it would be difficult for him to avoid serious injuries. After all, a peak C of Soul Realm cultivator, even if it was an old man at the peak C of Soul Realm, was an existence that could easily kill a Tao Fire Realm cultivator. Star Destruction? That's so domineering. Hearing this, Tianyang smiled slightly. Specks of starlight flickered in his hand. I also secretly learned this move from Zhou Xing. I haven't used it much. I'd like to see if you can destroy this star. Star Annihilation Sword. Tianyang roared. Starlight flickered in his hand. It was as if a power that could truly destroy stars had descended upon this land. Seeing this, the Purple Sun Sect's patriarch's expression changed greatly. He roared in disbelief. How is this possible? How can this be the Star Annihilation Sword? Even the previous Star Swordplay Sect's patriarch wasn't as strong as you. Cut the crap. Get into your coffin. Tianyang roared. The star annihilation sword completely erupted. A powerful sword light, as bright as a star, collided with the purple sun, destroying stars. Boom! A deafening explosion rang out. The entire purple sun sex mountain trembled. The aftershock swept out, destroying countless palaces and buildings in an instant. At this moment, Zhou Tong, who had walked out of the prison cell with blood dripping from his long sword, also sensed the familiar terrifying power and raised his head. Looking at the star annihilation sword above them, Zhou Tong and his son were dumbfounded. Son, is this our sex star annihilation sword? Father, I think our sex star annihilation sword isn't as authentic as Brother Tianyang's. Zhou Tong muttered to himself. At this moment, the purple sun sex patriarch had already gone mad in midair. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I, Sheng Pingshi, a peak first-level C of Soul Realm cultivator, will die in the hands of a Dao Fire Realm cultivator. The purple sun sex patriarch roared madly. His peak first-level C of Soul Realm True Yuan surged out. In the next moment, his True Yuan burned. Blood sacrifice. The true power of a peak first-level C of Soul Realm True Yuan erupted. Seeing this, Zhou Tong and his son's expressions changed greatly. Zhou Tong circulated his True Yuan and was about to soar into the sky to save Tianyang when Tianyang smiled indifferently. Star annihilation, sword isn't enough. How about I add another move? Sky Extreme Sword Art, third sword Star Burial. In the next moment, the purple light completely exploded. One after the other, a star burial. The two great sword chi directly swallowed the purple sun sex patriarch's body. Chapter 480. Sheng Pingshi, a first-level C of Soul Realm warrior, the purple sun martial school's great ancestor, died under Tianyang's two swords. On the ground, countless people stared at Tianyang in the sky, dumbfounded. Their faces were full of disbelief and shock. Even Zhou Tong of Star's swordplay sect, who had the title of Sword Spirit and the hope of leading Star's swordplay sect back to glory, was heavily injured by their sect's ancestor. Although Purple Sun sect's ancestor was mixed in with the crowd and didn't attract any attention, which was why Zhou Tong let down his guard. However, this also meant that Purple Sun sect's ancestor was powerful. However, in their hearts, Purple Sun sect's ancestor, who was invincible, was dead. Even Purple Sun sect's leader died at Zhou Tong's hands. In an instant, countless people's faces changed. Their faces were full of fear. Purple Sun sect's ancestor and leader were all dead. Even most of the disciples and elders were killed. Didn't this mean that the once glorious Purple Sun sect was destroyed? Go! Don't leave a single one alive. At this moment, Tianyang's expression didn't change. He slowly landed on the ground and looked at the Purple Sun sect's disciples who were fleeing in all directions. He didn't show any mercy and directly ordered, "Cut the grass, dig up the roots." These people were all killing Star's swordplay sect. Killing them was no burden at all. Even if there were innocent people among them, Tianyang would still kill them without hesitation. The battle between sects was so cruel. Even if you didn't participate in the battle, as long as you were an enemy, you would be sentenced to death. The more innocent you were, the more you had to kill. Perhaps the innocent identity would reignite the fire of revenge. Rather than letting a future enemy go, it was better to kill them now. Kill. Hearing this, Star's swordplay sect's people roared and rushed out. How could the Purple Sun sect's people, who had lost their morale and were fleeing in all directions, withstand the fury of Star's swordplay sect's disciples? In a short while, the entire mountain of Purple Sun sect was dyed red with blood. Countless people died unnatural deaths. For this battle, the Purple Sun Martial School had called back all of their disciples who were outside the Purple Sun Martial School, just to destroy the Star Sword School. However, they didn't think that this move would lead to the complete destruction of Purple Sun sect. From now on, the Purple Sun sect no longer existed in the Sky Clouds continent. Brother Tianyang, good move. At this time, Zhou Tong also walked over and gave Tianyang a thumbs up and praised. If it were me, I definitely wouldn't be able to do such a thing. Brother Tianyang, you're the one who sees things clearly. You cut the weeds and eliminate the roots directly. Zhou Tong. Hearing this, Tianyang smiled faintly. He had lived for too long and had a clear understanding of everything in the world. Tianyang was certain that if he let such an ungrateful sect go today, they would definitely repay him 100-fold tomorrow. This repayment is not to repay the kindness of letting him go, but to repay the hatred of destroying his sect. The Purple Sun Martial School was an example. The former leader of the Star Swordplay School didn't destroy the Purple Sun Martial School completely, but the Purple Sun Martial School fought back today. It was obvious that Tianyang would not let go of the House of Ziyang. Tianyang didn't have the kindness of a woman. They're just a bunch of ungrateful wolves. If I don't kill them, am I going to raise a tiger? Tianyang said softly. Then he stepped on the blood-stained ground and walked towards the House of Ziyang's treasury. As a third-rate force in the central area, the House of Ziyang was not weak. Plus, they had a glorious history of defeating the Star's Swordplay School. The House of Ziyang must have a lot of treasures. Seeing this, Zhou Tong was taken aback. Releasing his soul perception, he immediately understood what was going on and hurriedly followed behind. The Star Swordplay School had already suffered a great loss. Now that they had destroyed the House of Ziyang, how could they leave their treasures here and let others take advantage of them? The House of Ziyang's treasury was huge. However, the lock on the door was very sturdy. Even Zhou Tong, who had the spiritual body of the sword and was extremely powerful in the way of the sword, found it difficult to break the lock without using qi. That was because the lock had sensed the presence of true essence and had automatically destroyed the treasury. To open it, one had to use a special metal key. This key had long been destroyed by Tianyang's sword along with the Purple Sun Sect's ancestor, Sheng Pingshi. Naturally, it was impossible to find it. However, Tianyang's method was simple. He activated his true dragon body and punched out with the power of thousands of dragons. Boom! The treasury lock that could withstand the full force of a Sea of Soul Realm cultivator was completely destroyed, just like that. Then, the two of them walked in and took everything they saw. No matter what it was, the space bags were very big. Soon, the entire House of Ziyang's treasury was cleaned out by Tianyang and Zhou Tong. There were spirit stones worth billions of low-grade spirit stones, thousands of Reiki, and all kinds of divine weapons and treasures. Tianyang had even discovered the main ingredient that could be used to refine the Tao Fire Pill, that could be called a divine pill for Tao Fire Realm cultivators. The Tao Fire Pill was enough to greatly increase the resistance of a Tao Fire Realm cultivator to the Tao Fire Tribulation. If one consumed the Tao Fire Pill, the success rate of a Tao Fire Realm cultivator to transcend the Tao Fire Tribulation was almost 100%. And the House of Ziyang actually had the main ingredient for the Tao Fire Pill. How could Tianyang not be shocked? Soon, the 3 hidden treasures of Ziyang's sect were all cleaned out by Tianyang. Tianyang even found 3 sets of ingredients for the Tao Fire Pill. Tianyang originally wanted to give all these treasures to the Star's Swordplay sect, but Zhou Tong refused to accept it no matter what. In the end, Tianyang still obtained 1/3 of the treasures. Just the Tao Fire Pill alone was enough to refine one. That was a Tao Fire Pill whose value was comparable to the spiritual Sea Dragon Pearl. To the House of Ziyang that was once comparable to a first-rate faction, even 1/3 of the treasures was a huge fortune. It was probably comparable to the 9th Hall in Sky Blue College, which had the weakest foundation. After that, Tianyang activated the Heavenly Pagoda again and enlarged it to the maximum. He sent countless disciples and elders of the Star's Swordplay sect back to the sect. After burying the disciples who had sacrificed themselves, he led the Star's Swordplay sect group to a place. At the center of the Star's Swordplay sect, the ancestral statue of Sword Saint Zhou Xing from 10,000 years ago. Brother Tianyang, why did you bring us here? Zhou Tong asked curiously. Beside him, the sect leader of Star's Swordplay sect, Zhou Ming, and the Grand Elder of Star Swordplay Sect, Zhou Peng, also nodded with a puzzled expression. They had studied the ancestral statue countless times, but no matter how they studied it, they could not figure it out. Even when they used the Star Annihilation Sword to attack it, there was no reaction. At most, there was some dust, and it flew across the ground. Various signs indicated that the statue of Sword Saint Zhou Xing was just an ordinary stone statue. At most, it was just a little sturdier. Hearing this, Tianyang smiled slightly. The divine desolate heaven spirit art in his body slowly circulated. His palm was placed on the statue of Sword Saint Zhou Xing, which was as tall as 10 people. Then, Tianyang's next sentence made everyone's eyes widen. Do you want to know the legacy of your Star Swordplay Sect? Chapter 481. The Inheritance of Sword Saint Zhou Xing. The sect leader of the Star Swordplay Sect, the First Elder, and Zhou Tong were all astonished. The reason why the Purple Sun Sect had almost annihilated the Star Swordplay Sect was because of the inheritance of Sword Saint Zhou Xing. However, the Star Swordplay Sect, which had lived here for thousands of years, did not even know that their sect had such a thing. They scoffed at the idea of an inheritance. In the end, Tianyang, who had just saved them, also said that the inheritance of Sword Saint Zhou Xing was here. The three of them fell silent for a moment. They could not help but ask themselves, could it be that they were sitting on a mountain of treasure without knowing it? If that was the case, there seemed to be a reason why the Star Swordplay Sect had declined. The three of them wore gloomy expressions. That's right. The inheritance of Sword Saint Zhou Xing is here. However, it's almost impossible to activate it in this era. There's a reason why you didn't discover it. The people of the Purple Sun Sect heard the news from somewhere and came here. However, even if they succeeded in annihilating the Star Swordplay Sect, they wouldn't be able to get it. Tianyang patted the statue of Sword Saint Zhou Xing and smiled. The three of them were confused hearing this. An inheritance that was almost impossible to activate? What kind of inheritance was this? Then, First Elder Zhou Peng could not help but ask, could it be that the inheritance of our ancestors is inside the statue? However, we've checked it many times. This statue is just a very sturdy stone. This statue was left behind 10,000 years ago, right? Tianyang smiled and asked instead of answering Zhou Peng's question. Zhou Tong nodded hearing this. Yes, it was left behind 10,000 years ago. At that time, our ancestor had yet to pass away, so he built this statue. Later on, when the civilization was destroyed, it was not damaged. However, none of our ancestors were able to see the uniqueness of this statue, so they could only place it here. Zhou Tong's curiosity was piqued. Could it be that the ancestral statue really contained the inheritance of the ancestors? It's not damaged. Indeed, it's not damaged, but it's worse than that. Back then, the Star Swordplay Sect must have tried their best to stop the civilization from being destroyed. Even the civilization was unable to destroy Zhou Xing's statue. However, since it couldn't be destroyed, it was sealed. This incomparably sturdy stone egg is formed by the power of the heavenly tribulation. It's impossible for ordinary people to destroy it. Tianyang sneered. Zhou Tong and the other two's expressions changed. Formed by the power of the heavenly tribulation? Star Swordsmanship Sect has been guarding the reason why Star Swordsmanship Sect was almost destroyed 10,000 years ago. At this moment, Sect Master Zhou Ming said, Then, little friend, may I ask if the power of the heavenly tribulation can be eliminated? Sect Leader Zhou Xing's. Zhou Tong's sect leader said, Zhou Tong's sect. Sect died, Zhou Xing sect. Zhou Tong's Zhou Peng said Zhou. Zhou Ming said angrily. Hearing this, Zhou Tong and Zhou Peng nodded. Looking at the grayish-black shell, they wished they could immediately destroy it. Sect was had died killed of Sect died. In the end, he was severely injured and died. In the end, after his death, his statue was still covered by the power of the murderer. No one would be able to tolerate this. Of course, the smile on Tianyang's face suddenly faded a lot. The reason why I said this is because I naturally have a solution. It's just that I'll have to ask your ancestor's statue to be slightly inconvenienced. Tianyang said. Hearing this, Zhou Tong and the other two were puzzled. And at this time, Tianyang directly soared into the air, the divine desolate heavenly spirit art circulating at an extremely fast speed. His sky origin true essence directly erupted. Tens of thousands of Xinguang condensed on Tianyang's body. While everyone was puzzled, Tianyang directly condensed his true essence and slapped Zhou Xing's statue with his palm. "Sleep my ass, wake up. You still want to stay in there like a coward?" Tianyang angrily shouted. Seeing this, Zhou Tong and the other two were stunned. In the next moment, they all became furious. Even if Tianyang was their savior, he could not treat their ancestors like this. "Tianyang, you!" Zhou Tong angrily glared at Tianyang. At this time, a clear laughter suddenly rang out. "You're right. However, without your divine, desolate, heavenly spirit art, I really can't get up." "What? You want me to use the sky extreme sword art to slash you 8 to 10 times?" Tianyang's face was full of smiles as he looked at Zhou Xing's statue, which was gradually trembling. His conversation with Zhou Xing had been through voice transmission, so Zhou Tong could not hear it. But at this time, Zhou Tong's face suddenly froze. This was because under the outer shell of the heavenly tribulation, rays of starlight shot out, causing Zhou Xing's statue to become extremely dazzling. In the next moment, boom! The seal formed by the heavenly tribulation's power instantly exploded. Tianyang casually slashed out with his sword, and sword chi shot out from all directions, directly shattering the heavenly tribulation's power. As for the ancestor statue, it was completely exposed. It was completely transparent, but it seemed to contain the stars. In its eyes, there seemed to be stars twinkling. The long sword in its hand shone brightly under the sunlight. 10,000 years ago, Zhou Xing, who had dominated the world and looked down on the world, was carved vividly. It was a far cry from its previous grayish-black, dull, and lifeless appearance. This is our ancestor." Zhou Tong and the other two were stunned. Zhou Peng and Zhou Ming's bodies trembled, and their faces were filled with shock. The anger of the three immediately dissipated, and with a plop, they knelt on the ground. "Your descendants are unfilial, and only today can our ancestor return to the world," Zhou Peng and Zhou Ming said loudly. Hearing this, the transparent Zhou Xing statue suddenly smiled. The entire statue seemed to have come alive. "It's all right, get up," Zhou Xing smiled. Hearing this, the three of them continued to kneel on the ground. Seeing this, Zhou Xing smiled, knowing what the three of them were thinking. He turned his gaze back to Tianyang. When he saw Tianyang, a trace of shock appeared on Zhou Xing's face. "You didn't die?" Hearing this, Tianyang was instantly displeased. If not for the fact that this fellow had only left a trace of soul imprint, he would have directly chopped off his dog head with his sword. "How could you speak like that?" "Yes, I didn't die," Tianyang said unhappily. Hearing this, Zhou Xing smiled. "The lightning warrior, the vanguard of tribulation, you didn't die. What a surprise. However, looking at your cultivation, it seems to be much worse than before. The peak of the second heaven of the Tao Fire Realm is nothing, but killing you is not a problem," Tianyang said bluntly. Hearing this, Zhou Xing smiled. "You're still the same as 10,000 years ago. Come on, why are you still pretending in front of me? Do you want me to make you chase after the continent's #1 beauty?" Before Tianyang could finish speaking, his face was covered by a palm the size of 3 heads. Then, Zhou Xing's expression did not change, and he secretly transmitted his voice. "How dare you expose my past in front of my descendants? You are ruthless." Hearing this, Tianyang chuckled, took a step back, and did not say anything else. Now it was time for Zhou Xing, Zhou Tong, and the other two. "Back then, I knew that I might not be able to survive, so I sealed a trace of my remnant soul in this precious statue. However, I did not expect that in order to destroy the martial arts civilization, the civilization would be so vicious. It directly sent down the power of the tribulation to seal me, and I can only be unsealed today," Zhou Xing said. Then he lifted the statue, and the three immediately stood up. "Now, I won't be able to exist for much longer. I just want to leave behind a legacy. Chapter 482. Heavenly Cycle Stellar Sword Scripture. Hearing these words, Tianyang's expression changed slightly, and he smiled. This guy is really generous. The people of Heaven Continent did not have any concept of cultivation techniques. Naturally, they did not know how powerful the Heavenly Cycle Stellar Sword Scripture was. In the past, it was a powerful cultivation technique that had allowed Sword Saint Zhou Xing to dominate a region. If not for the Heavenly Cycle Stellar Sword Scripture, Sword Saint Zhou Xing would not have been able to cultivate the powerful power of the stars. Naturally, he would not have been able to become Sword Saint Zhou Xing. It could be said that this was the foundation of Sword Saint Zhou Xing. Who would have thought that Zhou Xing's inheritance was referring to this? Upper Heaven Class Cultivation Technique. Unlike Tianyang, Zhou Tong, and the other two focused on the words Upper Heaven Class Cultivation Technique. They did not know what a cultivation technique was. However, they knew what an Upper Heaven Class Cultivation Technique was. An Upper Earth Class Cultivation Technique was enough to allow a mediocre cultivator to surpass his level and fight against someone of a higher level. A half-step Heaven Class Cultivation Technique was almost the strongest cultivation technique in the Firmament Territory, domain of Lingwu, and other first-grade realms. As for a Heaven Class Cultivation Technique, even in the first-grade realms of the Central Region, it was the most powerful cultivation technique. However, Zhou Xing had mentioned an Upper Heaven Class Cultivation Technique. May I ask what a cultivation technique is? Zhou Ming asked after hesitating for a moment. They knew about Upper Heaven Class cultivation techniques, but the words cultivation technique were unfamiliar to them. It's the guidance of one's true yuan, the method to circulate it, the starting point of martial arts, and the order of cultivation. Tianyang said calmly, "Your ancestors' Heavenly Cycle Stellar Sword Scripture is one of the strongest cultivation techniques. Even the Ice Emperor and the Black Sky Saber Emperor could not compete with it. The Origin Emperor Shi Su technique is probably similar to your Heavenly Cycle Stellar Sword Scripture." Tianyang looked at Zhou Xing and smiled. Hearing this, Zhou Xing laughed. "It is similar, but it is not as good as your Divine Desolate Sky spiritual technique. No matter how strong our cultivation techniques are, they can only cultivate a special kind of power. However, you have created a miracle of cultivation with terminated meridians from start. And then, Heaven Origin True Essence, Myriad Divine Flame, Boundless Spirit Sea. These things can destroy Primal Emperor Shirshu's Void Origin True Essence and my star power. Our cultivation techniques have already been fixed, but your Divine Desolate Heavenly Spirit art still has this endless possibility." Zhou Xing praised. Upon hearing this, Tianyang chuckled. He naturally knew the uniqueness of his Divine Desolate Heavenly Spirit art. It could be said that from the very beginning, he had been a maverick, detached from the entire cultivation system. After all, he had innately terminated meridians. According to normal cultivation, it would be impossible for him to step into the body refinement realm, even if he died. By the way, I now have the perfect body refinement and the ultimate sea of qi. Tianyang chuckled. Hearing this, Zhou Xing was speechless. "You monster, I can't compare to you." Then, Zhou Xing looked at Zhou Tong and the other two. "That's it. Having a cultivation technique and not having one are two different things. However, the power of my remnant soul has lasted for 10,000 years. It has long been reduced to less than 10%. At most, I can only let one person accept my inheritance," Zhou Xing said. Hearing this, Zhou Tong and the other two's expressions changed. The three of them were people with extremely high status in the current Star Sword sect. Naturally, they also wanted to take a step forward in the martial Tao. However, only one of the three of them could accept the inheritance. This, no need to say anymore. Let Zhou Tong accept it. Great Elder Zhou Peng did not even think and took a step back. "I'm old. Even if I get the inheritance, it's useless. Why don't I give eldest nephew a position?" "Me too. Can I snatch it from my son?" Zhou Ming also smiled and left with Great Elder with his arm around his shoulder. It was as if he did not care about the upper-grade, heaven-tier cultivation technique, Heavenly Cycle Stellar Soar Manual. As for Zhou Tong, he stared blankly at the two's departing figures. Two streams of tears flowed from his eyes. He was extremely touched. As long as one was a cultivator, they would pursue the pinnacle of the martial Tao. Great Elder was already over 100 years old. However, to a peak half-step C of Soul Realm cultivator, he was not considered old. If he obtained the Heavenly Cycle Stellar Sword Manual, he could directly break through to the first level of C of Soul Realm. Sect leader Zhou Ming was in the prime of his life. His cultivation had already reached the half-step C of Soul Realm. However, he had also resolutely given up the opportunity to enter the C of Soul Realm. The two of them had practically sacrificed themselves to help Zhou Tong. How could Zhou Tong not be touched? Not bad, not bad. Seeing Zhou Peng and Zhou Ming's actions, Zhou Xing smiled with satisfaction. Then, he looked at Zhou Tong with a hint of surprise. Sword Spirit Body? Not bad. Of course not. When I was at the first level of the Dao Fire Realm, I fought with him. At that time, he could already use the power of the peak of the third level of the Dao Fire Realm to perform a sword strike that was close to the peak of the half-step C of Soul Realm. Tianyang smiled. You're not considered to be without a successor. Hearing this, Zhou Xing also smiled. Peak of the first level of the Dao Fire Realm? Then wouldn't you be hung up and beaten by my descendants? Bullsh asterisk T, I'll hang up and beat this guy, just like how I hung up and beat you up back then. Tianyang scolded jokingly. At this moment, Zhou Tong had also finished watching the two of them leave. He turned around and knelt on the ground with a plop. Ancestor, may I ask if you can help my father and First Elder break through to the Sea of Soul Realm? Zhou Tong suddenly kowtowed 3 times and asked loudly. Hearing this, Zhou Xing was stunned. Tianyang was also stunned. The upper-grade heaven-tier cultivation technique was placed in front of him, but Zhou Tong did not accept it immediately. However, this caused Zhou Xing to smile in an extremely satisfied manner. Ha ha ha, not bad. Really not bad. The current Star's Swordplay sect is countless times stronger than the Star's Swordplay sect of the past. Don't worry, little guy. As long as you cultivate the Heavenly Cycle Stellar Sword Manual to a certain extent, you can impart it to others. At that time, your father and First Elder will naturally be able to break through. Zhou Xing smiled. Hearing this, Zhou Tong's face was also filled with excitement. He kowtowed again. Thank you for granting my wish, ancestor. Cultivators had lifespans. According to normal calculations, a half-step C of Soul Realm cultivator could live for at most 1,000 years. For people like First Elder and Zhou Ming, who had killed countless people and suffered many hidden injuries, it was considered lucky to be able to live for 500 years. As for First Elder, he was already 131 years old. He had been stuck at this stage for 21 years. Without any fortuitous encounters, his hidden injuries might erupt one day and take his life. That was why Zhou Tong said that. It's not that I'm granting your wish. If you want to grant your father and First Elder, you have to do it yourself. Zhou Xing smiled and shook his head. Then he pointed a finger, and a spiritual light shot into Zhou Xing's soul sea. This is the Heavenly Cycle Stellar Sword Manual. Chapter 483. You, take your time to comprehend it. With that, Zhou Xing's statue suddenly dimmed significantly. Once the Heavenly Cycle Stellar Sword Scripture was released, Zhou Xing's remnant soul energy was greatly depleted. At this moment, Zhou Tong was already immersed in the endless mysteries of the Heavenly Cycle Stellar Sword Scripture, unable to extricate himself. Old friend, you've expended a lot of energy. Tianyang glanced at the dimmed Zhou Xing and said. His expression did not change, but his tone changed greatly. Hearing this, Zhou Xing smiled in a carefree manner. So be it. I'm already a dead person. This wisp of remnant soul will disperse sooner or later. Rather than being sealed by the power of the heavenly tribulation and dying in grievance, it's better to complete my mission and die happily. Zhou Xing said. Tianyong nodded slightly, but his heart was heavy. No great emperor could live for 10,000 years. Only a remnant soul was left behind. Zhou Xing was already a dead person. Unless one was like Crimson Dragon Wu Zun and Yuan Emperor Su, who directly surpassed the heavenly ascension realm and transcended the world, it was possible to live forever. However, Zhou Xing had not reached this step. Now, let's not disturb his cultivation. Let's go out for a walk. Zhou Xing smiled. Then, the statue of the ancestral master suddenly trembled, and Zhou Xing's remnant soul flew out. Tianyong glanced at it, and his heart sank. Zhou Xing's soul was almost transparent to the extreme. It was as if it would be extinguished with a puff of air. When I died, I didn't seem to have left anything behind. TSK, it's all that stupid civilization's fault. I don't even know where I went. Zhou Xing muttered. Tianyong chuckled. I heard that they built a cenotaph for you. Do you want to take a look? Zhou Xing was stunned. Then he smiled and nodded. Sure, you can mourn for yourself. You're so creative. The two slowly left the place. Before Tianyong left, he set up a circle of restrictions to prevent others from disturbing Zhou Tong's comprehension of the heavenly cycle stellar sword scripture. Comprehending a heaven high-tier cultivation technique for the first time was of the utmost importance. If others were to disturb him, Zhou Tong would cry himself to death. However, after Tianyong finished setting up this circle of restrictions, Zhou Xing's soul dimmed a little. Sword Saint Zhou Xing's cenotaph was located in the mountains behind the Star's swordplay sect. It was surrounded by mountains and rivers, and could be considered a good place with good feng shui. This place was rarely visited by people. The Star's swordsmanship sect had locked down the place, preventing anyone from entering and desecrating the ancestral tombs. Even if it was just a cenotaph, it would not do. You are Lord Tianyong. Is Lord Tianyong here to offer condolences to his ancestors? Please come in. The young disciple guarding the back of the mountain also saw Tianyong's appearance and suddenly became excited. Before this, he was also fighting with the Ziyang House disciples and was almost killed. If Tianyong didn't come down from the sky, he would have died in this battle. Now that Tianyong wanted to go in and take a look, he naturally wouldn't stop him. If it were Zhou Tong, Zhou Ming, and Zhou Peng, the three people with the highest status in the Star Swordsmanship sect, they wouldn't stop him either. However, seeing the guard's enthusiastic appearance, Tianyong smiled and nodded at him, then walked into the back of the Star Swordsmanship sect. Watching Tianyong leave, the guard suddenly scratched his head. Just now, something seemed to have followed Lord Tianyong in. Strange, I didn't sense it. At this time, Tianyong and Zhou Ming had already arrived at Sword Saint Zhou Xing's cenotaph. This cenotaph was erected 10,000 years ago when Sword Saint Zhou Xing died. Even 10,000 years later, it was still preserved. When the Ziyang House invaded, the Star Swordsmanship sect also protected it well and moved it here, worshipping it day and night. This is your cenotaph. Why? Do you want me to burn some incense for you? Tianyong looked at the cenotaph, which only had a sword-shaped boulder and a few items that Zhou Xing used when he was alive, and smiled at Zhou Xing beside him. Hearing this, Zhou Xing chuckled. Forget it. Anyway, you definitely won't be sincere enough to pay your respects to me. All right, you haven't told me how you came back to life. As the person who fought against the lightning and the vanguard of the heavenly tribulation, shouldn't you be the first to die? Zhou Xing smiled. Hearing this, Tianyong also smiled. He didn't rebuke Zhou Xing. Instead, he sat down with his legs crossed and slowly narrated. I also don't know what happened. I only know that the moment I was struck by the divine lightning of destruction, my physical body exploded and my soul fell into a deep sleep. When I woke up from my deep sleep, I was already reborn in the northern wilderness region, in the body of a useless young master from the Tian family of the Snow Gale State. As for Zhou Xing, she was also listening very attentively. From time to time, she would laugh and give a few comments. The two of them didn't mention Zhou Xing himself because they both knew Zhou Xing's remnant soul couldn't stay in this world for long. A dead person couldn't come back to life unless he controlled the myriad worlds and reversed time and space. However, Even if he broke through the heavenly ascension state and reached a new level, he would only be able to transcend this world. When Tianyang grasped that unbelievably slim chance and successfully reached the peak of martial arts and controlled the myriad worlds, Zhou Xing might have already entered the cycle of reincarnation. As time passed, Tianyang's story gradually came to an end. Zhou Xing's body also faded to the extreme. Even Tianyang couldn't see Zhou Xing without using his soul power to scan. In your current state, aren't you going to consider letting me help? Tianyang frowned. Hearing this, Zhou Xing smiled faintly. It's useless. Even a great emperor can't escape from old age, sickness, and death. As long as I stay in this world, it's difficult for me to attain immortality. It's already a miracle that my remnant soul can last for 10,000 years. So, did you bring the Qingyuan wine? Zhou Xing smiled. Hearing this, Tianyang didn't look surprised at all. He chuckled lightly. I knew you would be like this. I personally brewed the Qingyuan wine. It's guaranteed to be satisfying. The next moment, the space bag flashed, and a total of 30 jars of Qingyuan wine appeared in front of Tianyang. Seeing this, Zhou Xing's eyes lit up. Not bad. Only you know that I like this. Come, let's drink. The next moment, Zhou Xing picked up a jar of Qingyuan wine and poured it straight down his throat. Seeing this, Tianyang didn't pale in comparison. He also began to drink like crazy. The fire burned his throat, but Tianyang didn't have any reaction. He didn't even intend to use his true essence or physical strength. He directly endured the burning sensation. Tears flowed uncontrollably from his eyes. As for Zhou Xing, he was also drinking crazily, one jar after another. Zhou Xing's spiritual projection became slightly more distinct. His face was also covered in tears. In the end, all 30 jars of wine were finished. Zhou Xing's soul shadow also became extremely bright. This was the final radiance of the setting sun. Ha! I finally won back around. This time, I've drunk more than you. Zhou Xing threw the jar of wine to one side and laughed loudly. Hearing this, Tianyang also laughed loudly. That's right. This time I've lost. Ha ha ha. Two peerless experts, separated by 10,000 years on this small mountain, once again laughed over their wine. At this moment, spots of light appeared on Zhou Xing's body. Seeing this, Tianyang also stopped laughing. Tears stained his chest. He looked at Zhou Xing and suddenly saluted. Brother, rest in peace. As for Zhou Xing, he also laughed loudly and allowed the light to engulf his entire body. Brother, take care. The next moment, the light expanded wildly and completely engulfed Zhou Xing's soul. 10,000 years ago, Sword Saint Zhou Xing's last consciousness left in this world. Chapter 484. Sword Saint Zhou Xing had completely passed away. Tianyang's best rival and brother from his previous life had also disappeared from this world. An indescribable sense of loneliness and sorrow appeared in Tianyang. Tianyang sat in front of Sword Saint Zhou Xing's cenotaph for a total of 7 days. During this period, Zhou Tong, who had mastered the Heavenly Cycle Stellar Sword Manual, Ling Yuhan, Zhou Ming, Zhou Peng, and the others all came to visit Tianyang. However, Tianyang ignored their visits and sat quietly on the mountaintop. Sigh. Ling Yuhan looked at Tianyang in front of the cenotaph and sighed softly. Although Tianyang had never revealed his identity, Ling Yuhan could guess most of it. To be able to drink and chat merrily with Sword Saint Zhou Xing and be so familiar with him. Who else could he be other than the Sword Emperor from 10,000 years ago, the Tianji Sword Emperor Tianyang? Sword Saint Zhou Xing is dead. Master no longer has a good friend to confide in. Ling Yuhan sighed. She was from this life and didn't really understand Tianyang's sense of loneliness. However, she could guess a little. For a person who had lived 10,000 years ago to suddenly come to this world, other than cultivation, the only reason he would believe was that his good friend from 10,000 years ago might not be dead. That feeling of drifting away from this world had always been with Tianyang and had never left. This could also be explained. No matter how hard Ling Yuhan tried, Tianyang was still unmoved. To him, His only goal after his rebirth was to destroy the mastermind behind the great destruction of the civilization. No, if this is the case, Master will definitely not be able to walk out. Ling Yuhan looked at Tianyang, who was sitting there, and suddenly clenched her fists and rushed out. Master! Master, wake up! Ling Yuhan stood in front of Tianyang and said excitedly. Hearing this, Tianyang was indifferent. Master, the dead are already gone. No matter how long you sit here, Sword Saint Zhou Xing won't be able to return, unless you reach the realm of reversing time and space. However, how can you reach that realm in your current state? Ling Yuhan said. Hearing this, Tianyang's eyes flashed, and then he fell silent again. Seeing this, Ling Yuhan only felt a wave of pain in her heart. Tianyang's appearance was the last thing she wanted to see. Furthermore, Master, so what if you were the Tianji Sword Emperor from 10,000 years ago? Right now, you are only my master. 10,000 years ago is already 10,000 years ago. The people from 10,000 years ago had already disappeared. You are now a person, Ling Yuhan said loudly. Hearing this, Tianyang's expression still did not change. The matter of his rebirth could not be hidden from Ling Yuhan, who had been with him all the time. However, Ling Yuhan's next sentence moved Tianyang. So what if Sword Saint Zhou Xing is gone? There is still the Flying Sword, Senior Ling, and the people from the Soaring Cloud sect. Even if they can't do it, there is still me, Ling Yuhan said angrily. However, Tianyang's eyes only brightened for a moment, and then they dimmed again. 10,000 years ago, the feelings that had been honed between friends and foes were not something that these people could replace. In the next moment, Tianyang's eyes widened. Ling Yuhan directly pounced in front of Tianyang and used her lips to fiercely press against Tianyang's lips. Tianyang's eyes widened. Just as he was about to say something, he felt an extremely invasive tongue rudely prying open his lips and rushing in. She did not care whether Tianyang was willing or not, and she began to stir wantonly. Master, I like you. Ling Yuhan's face turned red, but she still said it firmly. Hearing this, Tianyang instantly felt as if he was struck by lightning. The darkness in his eyes disappeared, and his eyes gradually brightened. Then, he flipped over and pressed Ling Yuhan down. Master, you! Ling Yuhan was stunned. However, now the roles of the invader and the victim had already been switched one day later. Tianyang and Ling Yuhan slowly walked out of the small mountain, but were shocked to find that the guards at the mountain pass had disappeared without them knowing. However, the two of them did not really care about this. But thinking back to the situation back then, Ling Yuhan still felt her face and ears turn red. Back then, the two of them were so close to doing that thing. Luckily, Tianyang also knew that that was not the place to do that. After Ling Yuhan had resolved the knot in his heart, the pressure of not eating or drinking for 7 consecutive days directly crushed Tianyang. He slept for as long as a day. For Tianyang, who had almost replaced his entire day with cultivation, this was an unbelievable situation. Brother Tianyang, you're back? At this time, Zhou Tong also saw Tianyang and Ling Yuhan. Looking at the red-faced Ling Yuhan, he immediately had an I know everything expression on his face and winked at Tianyang. Not bad. You didn't come back for 7 days, and you actually brought back a sister-in-law? Hearing this, Tianyang smiled, and Ling Yuhan's face turned red to the extreme. She opened Tianyang's space bag and jumped into the Heaven Tower, not daring to come out. In the Heaven Tower, Ling Yuhan was the one who suffered. Her tender face was being pinched here and there by Ling Yuhan. If it were not for the fact that she was looking at Ling Yuhan, Bai Luoluo would have blasted a rune over. Don't say any more. Yuhan is thin-skinned. We can't talk about it now. Tianyang smiled, then glanced at Zhou Tong with a surprised expression. You've reached the 2nd level of the Sea of Soul Realm. Hearing this, Zhou Tong was stunned, then smiled. Looks like I can't hide it from you. It's all thanks to you activating the Ancestors' Inheritance. Otherwise, I'd probably still be at the 1st level of the Sea of Soul Realm. The Heavenly Cycle Stellar Sword Scripture was a heaven-class, upper-level cultivation method. Its power was many times stronger than the extreme heaven battle art. Even if the gap between each small realm and the Sea of Soul realm was enormous, it was completely made up for by Zhou Tong's sudden enlightenment. The chaotic and disorderly Zhen Yuan in his body was directly transformed into a stable and orderly and incomparably powerful star power. To the people of the Star Swordplay sect, this was a priceless treasure. It could be said that if Zhou Tong used the Star's Annihilation Sword, it would be a piece of cake for him to kill the Purple Sun sect's ancestor, Sheng Pingshi. You're not bad yourself. You've reached the 3rd level of the Dao Fire Realm. All right, I have something to tell you. Because the conversation between Tianyang and Zhou Xing was through soul telepathy, Zhou Tong could not tell the relationship between Tianyang and Zhou Xing. He only knew that Tianyang had activated the inheritance. As for what happened after that, only Tianyang and Ling Yuhan knew. Therefore, Zhou Tong was not very restrained in front of Tianyang. What's the matter? Hearing this, Tianyang was stunned for a moment before he followed. The two came to a quiet room together. Zhou Tong's space bag moved, then he took out a token and smiled. This is something I found in the Purple Sun sect's leader's space bag. It's related to a big matter. What big matter? Chapter 485. Great Void Mystery Realm. Hearing this, Tianyang was stunned. At this moment, Zhou Tong began to explain. In fact, the Great Void Mystery Realm was no different from the dragon-hidden Ancient Land and the Northern Desolation Mystery Realm that Tianyang had been to before. They were all spaces created by ancient almighties. Within these spaces, spiritual qi was abundant and there were countless treasures. It was a place that countless sects fought over. However, the Great Void Mystery Realm was much more powerful than the dragon-hidden Ancient Land and the Northern Desolation Mystery Realm. Therefore, the time needed to open it was much longer. The dragon-hidden Ancient Land opened once every 10 years. However, the Great Void Mystery Realm only opened once every 100 years. At this moment, there was less than a month left before the Great Void Mystery Realm opened. There's actually such a mystery realm? Tianyang's expression changed slightly. From Zhou Tong's explanation, he could tell that the Great Void Mystery Realm was left behind by a powerful expert. It was left behind by a powerful existence called the Great Void Emperor. Not only did it contain countless treasures, but it also contained the inheritance of the Great Void Emperor. The Great Void Emperor was an existence that was not weaker than the primordial emperor, the Tianji Sword Emperor from 10,000 years ago. The inheritance of such an existence would definitely be sought after by countless people, even if it was just a legend. The Great Void Mystery Realm is located in the east of the Central Region. However, the Great Void Mystery Realm limits the cultivation of those who enter. Only those below the Sea of Soul Realm can enter. Those above the Sea of Soul Realm, unless it's a Heaven Ascension Realm expert, will not be able to break through the barrier. Hearing this, Tianyang nodded slightly. Only Heaven Ascension Realm experts could break through the barrier. If that was the case, the inheritance of the Great Void Emperor was not a baseless rumor. How about it? I've obtained a token from the Purple Sun sect. This token can allow you to enter the Great Void Mystery Realm. Do you want to enter? The Great Void Mystery Realm is where the various sects send their representatives to fight. I'm already at the 2nd level of the Sea of Soul Realm, so I can't enter. However, the strongest in the Star Swordplay sect is only above average. I can't compete with them. Only you, Brother Tianyang, can make a move. Zhou Tong. Hearing this, Tianyang's expression changed slightly, and his mind raced. To be honest, Tianyang was not particularly interested in the inheritance of the Taishu Great Emperor. He was at the same level as the Taishu Great Emperor, so he naturally did not care for it. However, if he didn't go, he would have nothing to do in Star Swordplay sect. Furthermore, Star Swordplay sect had already declined to such a state. Tianyang couldn't bear to see it continue to decline. The Great Void Secret Realm was a turning point for the Star Swordplay sect to rise again. As for Ling Yuhan, the Great Void Emperor and Tianyang were on the same level. Tianyang did not believe that the Great Void Mystic Realm would be able to see through him if he used his soul power to cover up Ling Yuhan and Bai Luoluo. This had nothing to do with arrogance. This was a strong self-confidence brought about by one's own strength. There's no problem with that. However, what's the situation with the people participating in the Great Void Mystic Realm? Tianyang said. Zhou Tong smiled in response. The Great Void Mystic Realm is a mystic realm left behind by an Emperor-class being. Naturally, its allure is endless, and almost every sect in the east of the Central region could join. Of course, the Holy Lands of martial arts would not interfere, nor would they interfere in a mystic realm of this level. Well then, I'll tell you about all the first-rate factions in the east of the Central region. The Sun Moon sect. Wait, there's also the top second-rate factions, and the geniuses they send would not lose out to the Sky Demon cult, a first-rate faction. Zhou Tong spoke tirelessly. Tianyang's eyes flashed at that. The Sky Demon cult? Back at Shanghai Pass, he had killed the chieftain of the Demon Blade sect and offended the Sky Demon cult. Although he had fooled them with the name of Baiying, he would not have been able to hide it for long. Therefore, the Sky Demon cult was one of his enemies. These factions are all extremely powerful, and a third-rate faction like the Star Swordplay sect would definitely not be able to act. However, you're different, Brother Tianyang. Your ability surpasses even mine, and you would definitely be invincible in the Great Void Mystic Realm. If that's the case, Brother Tianyang, you could lead the Star's Swordplay sect to greatness. Tianyang chuckled at Zhou Tong's words. It's better for you to lead the Star's Swordplay sect to greatness. I'm afraid that Sword Saint Zhou Xing would jump out of the ground to settle accounts with me. That said, the Great Void Mystic Realm you speak of is quite interesting. Give me the token, I'll go. Tianyang said. Zhou Tong was overjoyed at that. With you going, the Star Swordplay sect would definitely rise to the top. Who knows, Brother Tianyang, you might even obtain the legendary Imperator of Taishu's legacy. Tianyang smiled at that, a light flashing in his eyes. The Imperator of Taishu's legacy, huh? Thousands of miles away from the Star's Swordplay sect, in a bustling city. Tianyang and Ling Yuhan walked side by side on the street, looking around. The city was bustling, and it was much more prosperous than the Firmament Territory's Night Vault City. That was because it was called Sword Star City. It was one of the most prosperous cities in the east of the Central region. Legend has it that a sword-shaped meteorite fell from the sky and hit the center of Sword Star City thousands of years ago. It became an indomitable divine sword, and that's how it got its name. The factions in Sword Star City are extremely powerful. The Sun Moon sect and other sects are not far from Sword Star City. At the same time, there are many sword cultivators in Sword Star City. Tianyang smiled as he looked at the passers-by. Almost every one of them carried a long sword on their back. After all, Sword Star City had an extraterrestrial divine sword that emitted sword Dao intent. It was almost a holy land for countless sword cultivators. As a holy land, there were naturally countless sword cultivators. Tianyang even noticed that not far away, two Sea of Soul Realm cultivators, who were strong enough to be called Spirit Kings, were walking towards the extraterrestrial divine sword in the center of the city. Master, shall we also go and comprehend it? Ling Yuhan smiled as she held Tianyang's hand with her small white hand. Tianyang smiled faintly as he looked at the token in his hand. There was also a bright red invitation. This invitation was an invitation to a gathering of geniuses. The purpose was to let the geniuses who had entered the Great Void Mystery Realm get to know each other. Tianyang still had to give face to Zhou Tong. Let's go and meet this so-called gathering of geniuses first. Anyway, the extraterrestrial divine sword is right here. There's no hurry. Chapter 486. In the largest restaurant in Sword Star City, Star Sword Restaurant, a group of people sat around a huge table. At the head of the table was an arrogant young man, looking at the invitation card in his hand with a sneer. A mere third-rate sect dares to come to our gathering of geniuses? What a joke. What kind of geniuses can a third-rate sect cultivate? The young man sneered. Hearing this, the people beside him also sneered. I wonder who wrote it this time. Let's just invite him over. However, if he's here, he better keep his mouth shut. Otherwise, the countless geniuses here will make him suffer," a young girl said contemptuously. Hearing this, the people beside her also nodded. The name on the invitation card was Tianyang from Star's swordplay sect. These people all had extraordinary backgrounds. They were all famous existences on the Central Region Heaven's Pride list. Every one of them had reached the peak of the half-step sea of Soul Realm. Naturally, they were mocking Tianyang, who was at the third heaven of Tao Fire Realm. Then, the arrogant young man threw away the invitation card as if it was trash. At this moment, outside the Star Sword restaurant, Tianyang and Zhotong had also arrived. This Star Sword restaurant is not bad. Although it's not as majestic as the Outer Sky God Sword, there's still some Sword Tao aura in it. There's also a spirit gathering array that's not weak. I'm afraid it'll be a sky-high price to stay here for a night. Tianyang smiled and walked in. He still had to give face to Zhotong. "Halt! Show me your invitation card." Arriving at the top floor, 2 Second Heaven of Tao Fire Realm guards immediately stopped Tianyang. There was no emotion in their eyes as they looked at Tianyang. Hearing that, Tianyang casually waved his hand, revealing the invitation to the 2 guards. When they saw the name on the invitation, the 2 guards were stunned. A strange look flashed in their eyes. "The invitation card is real. Go in." The guard nodded and opened the door. At this moment, many people had already arrived at the gathering of geniuses. The lowest is at the peak of the third heaven of Tao Fire Realm. The highest is even showing signs of breaking through to the sea of Soul Realm. This gathering of geniuses is not ordinary. Tianyang looked around at the geniuses and nodded slightly. This quality could indeed be considered a gathering of geniuses. However, what was the purpose of this gathering of geniuses? At this moment, Ling Yuhan also followed behind. She did not wear any mask and directly came to Tianyang's side. For a moment, everyone looked at Heavenly Sunday. More accurately, they were looking at Ling Yuhan, who was beside Heavenly Sun. The arrogant young man's face changed immediately. A look of greed flashed across his face. Then, he stood up immediately. "Are you two are?" The arrogant young man smiled. Then, he walked up politely. "I'm Han Tianpeng from the City Lord Mansion of Venus City. May I know your name?" The arrogant young man, Han Tianpeng, smiled. Although he was talking to Tianyang, his eyes kept glancing at Ling Yuhan. Anyone could see the passion in his eyes. Tianyang frowned and said indifferently, "Star's swordplay sect, Tianyang." Hearing this, Han Tianpeng was stunned. He retracted his gaze from Ling Yuhan, and a mocking expression appeared in his eyes. Then, he stretched out his hand. "So it's the Star's Sword sect. Nice to meet you," Han Tianpeng said with a fake smile. He was still talking about this person. In the end, this person came so quickly. Moreover, he brought along a beautiful girl. Han Tianpeng planned in his heart. "Wait a minute. I'll reveal my family background and my outstanding talent. Won't I be afraid that this girl will defect to me?" Tianyang looked at Han Tianpeng with a cold smile. This person's inner thoughts were written all over his face. Tianyang chuckled. He pulled Ling Yuhan's hand and walked away. However, Han Tianpeng's hand froze on the spot. He looked at Tianyang's back in disbelief. His face flushed red. "How dare you ignore me?" Han Tianpeng shouted. He was from the City Lord Mansion of Venus City and was a young master. When had he ever been humiliated like this? In the next moment, Han Tianpeng activated his true yuan and rushed out. Earth low-grade, martial technique, cold wind claw, a cold wind blew. The true yuan of a half-step sea of Soul Realm cultivator was released. Han Tianpeng was confident that with this claw, Tianyang would be crippled, if not dead. Huh? Seeing this, Tianyang's expression changed slightly. His eyes turned cold. Without turning his head, he slapped out with his left hand. Boom! A loud sound exploded from the center of the two. Tianyang did not move, but Han Tianpeng's cold wind claw was broken. Han Tianpeng's entire body was pushed back by this palm. His face was filled with disbelief. His low-grade Earth-ranked martial skill had actually been so easily broken. The surrounding people were also shocked. They were clear about Han Tianpeng's strength. In this gathering of geniuses, even if he wasn't number one, he was definitely in the top 10. This cold wind claw was something that even those geniuses did not dare to say they could easily block. In the end, Tianyong broke it with a casual palm. How is this possible? How is this possible? Han Tianping's thoughts were the same as those people. His face suddenly darkened. The true yuan of a half-step sea of soul realm cultivator completely exploded. He attacked Tianyong again. Earth high-grade martial technique, furious wind fist. Streams of true yuan converged, and a terrifying pressure was released. All the geniuses present could not help but change their expressions. Han Tianping actually used furious wind fist. This is the only martial technique that he comprehended the profound meaning of martial arts. That Tianyong is probably going to die. Disrespecting Han Tianping is disrespecting us. This kind of lowly commoner should just die. That's right. Everyone could not help but ridicule. At this time, Tianyong's face turned completely cold. He had only agreed to Zhou Tong's request to show his face at the gathering. He had only wanted to quietly wait until the gathering ended and then leave. In the end, this Han Tianping was so overbearing and arrogant. As soon as he arrived, he had his eyes on Ling Yuhan. Now, he was even going for the kill. Insignificant skill, break for me. Tianyong coldly snorted. It was still his left hand, but this time the true dragon's dragon core revolved and millions of dragon power were released. Without any true yuan, but still condensed dozens of dragon, chi, giant dragon's fist. It shattered space and brazenly blasted out. Boom! The entire Xinjiang restaurant trembled, and the fist that Han Tianping had punched out also froze on the spot. Dozens of dragon, chi, giant dragons roared malevolently. Chapter 487. After spitting out a mouthful of blood, Han Tianping's aura immediately withered. Looking at Tianyong in shock, Han Tianping's face turned pale as he growled in disbelief. How is this possible? How could someone from a lowly third-rate force have such strength? You're definitely not Tianyong. Who are you? Han Tianping shouted angrily. Hearing this, Tianyong chuckled. I am Tianyong. Hearing this, the entire top floor of the Star Sword restaurant fell silent. The Star Swordplay sect was originally unknown. It was only after the recent massacre of the Purple Sun sect that they entered the field of vision of these people. However, they were only slightly famous. The Star Swordplay sect itself was still a third-rate force. It was just that it had stabilized a little. However, which one of them did not come from a second-rate force or even a first-rate force? They were naturally extremely arrogant towards third-rate forces. But in the end, Han Tianping, who came from a second-rate force, the City Lord Mansion of Gold Star City, was instantly killed by a third-level Dao Fire Realm cultivator from a third-rate force. Countless people secretly swallowed a mouthful of saliva as they looked at Tianyong in shock. At this moment, a young man suddenly stood up, coldly looking at Tianyong. That person said coldly, "A nameless junior actually injured Brother Tianping the moment he arrived. Could it be that he thinks there's no one here? Moreover, his attack was so ruthless. He's definitely someone from the demonic path." That person's face was filled with awe-inspiring righteousness as he looked down condescendingly at Heavenly Sun and spoke in a loud voice. However, Tianyong saw the greed in his eyes. The corners of Tianyong's mouth also curled into a cold smile. Hearing this, everyone's expression changed. Someone from the demonic path? Some people's faces turned pale. People from the demonic path killed anyone they saw without the slightest bit of conscience. If Tianyong was from the demonic path, then they would definitely die. There were also some people whose calm expressions suddenly darkened. They looked at the sun with a dangerous glint in their eyes. Demon cultivators, cultivators of the Sky Clouds continent, everyone had the right to kill them. Hearing this, Tianyong sneered. What a big accusation. He was the one who attacked me first. Don't tell me I should just let him hit me? That's right. For a lowly commoner like you to be beaten by Han Tianping, that is your fortune. You actually dare to fight back. This is simply disgraceful. The young man raised his arrogant head and mocked. Han Tianping was of noble birth. In their hearts, he was indeed much higher than Tianyong. However, When she heard this, Ling Yuhan was furious. "This is the logic of a robber," Ling Yuhan said angrily. Hearing this, the young man's face immediately darkened. "It seems that you are also a member of the diabolism. Everyone has the right to punish those of the devil Tao. Give me your life." The young man snorted and a greedy look flashed in his eyes. He leaped up and charged toward Ling Yuhan. Ling Yuhan's expression did not change. Just as she was about to draw her Sky Frost sword to meet the attack, she heard Tianyong snort coldly. Scram! Boom! The young man in midair seemed to have been hit by a terrifying attack. He flew backward and blood spurted out of his mouth. He crashed into the wall and became the second Han Tianpeng. Seeing this, countless people's expressions changed. A mere snort was enough to injure a half-step sea of Soul Realm cultivator? This kind of strength was too terrifying. If he entered the Great Void Mystery Realm, he would definitely be their greatest enemy. Thinking of this, countless people's eyes surged with murderous intent, and they rushed out. "Brutal diabolism, die!" One of them roared. In the next moment, he channeled his true core and punched out. Great Heaven Fist Print. Seeing this, Tianyong did not move and punched out with his left fist. The 108 Dragon Chi dragons began to roar, directly shattering the so-called Great Heaven Fist imprint and sending that person flying. Arrogant, arrogant. I can't let you stay here. Take my move. Earth Tier Upper Martial Technique, Spirit Shattering Finger. At this moment, another young girl soared into the sky. Killing intent surged in her eyes. The true core of a half-step sea of Soul Realm cultivator condensed and pointed out. Seeing this, Tianyang's expression did not change. Just as he was about to smash the finger with his fist, the finger light changed direction midway and rushed toward Ling Yuhan. "Ha ha ha! I can't kill you. I'll kill your companion." The young girl laughed wildly. She was extremely confident in the power of her move. This finger could easily injure a person at the 3rd level of the Dao Fire Realm, let alone a person at the 2nd level of the Dao Fire Realm. However, seeing this scene, Tianyong only smiled faintly. A mere Earth Tier Upper Martial Technique that was not even used at full strength wanted to take Ling Yuhan's life? Wasn't this person thinking too highly of himself? Break! Ling Yuhan snorted coldly. The cold sky sword appeared in her hand, releasing an endless chill, directly slashing at the spirit-shattering finger. An icy sword light was released, instantly shattering the space and colliding with the spirit-shattering finger. Boom! A deafening sound was heard. Surging airwaves wreaked havoc on the top floor. The tables, chairs, bowls, and chopsticks were all blown away by the airwaves. The entire top floor was a mess. And at the center of the collision between the spirit-shattering finger and the cold sky sword, a ray of light shone. Bang! The spirit-shattering finger exploded, but the power of this sword had not been eliminated. It turned and attacked the young girl. What? The young girl's expression changed drastically. Just as she was about to wave her hand to block the sword, Tianyong also punched out in time. 108 true dragon patterns were released, directly injuring the young girl. And that sword light almost cut off her right arm. Ah! The young girl screamed crazily. At this time, the rest of the people present could not sit still. They were all from sects and families, and they were on the same side as Han Tianpeng and the others. Now, that Han Tianpeng was seriously injured and the others were easily defeated, they naturally could not sit idly by. He even dares to attack Miss Yen. He's definitely a devil. Everyone, let's attack together. Kill him. A handsome young man shouted angrily and charged out. Intermediate Earth-class martial arts technique, rock-shattering fist. That's right. This person must definitely die. Upper Earth-class martial arts technique, mountain-shattering palm. Lower Earth-class martial arts technique, blazing fire fist. Peerless Earth-class martial arts technique, heavenly creation fist. Countless people stood up and roared. One after another, they used their strongest moves and charged at Tianyong. The lowest cultivation level was at the peak of the 3rd heaven of Dao Fire Realm. They released their full strength. Facing the siege of hundreds of geniuses, Tianyang fell into a dead end. At this time, Tianyang chuckled. A black light flashed in his hand, and streaks of nether death chi were released. Looking at these people besieging him, he sneered. Styx swordsmanship, first move, road to the underworld. A terrifying sword light slashed out, instantly shattering the attacks of countless geniuses. Even the geniuses themselves were sent flying. Mouthfuls of blood spurted out. These geniuses were all seriously injured, and they looked at Tianyang in horror. One sword. Chapter 488. This group of geniuses were all high and mighty in their respective cities. They were practically the top existences among their peers. But at this moment, they were like dead dogs, lying by the wall and spitting out blood. They were seriously injured. This horrifying scene made Han Tianpeng, who had just woken up, horrified. How long had he been unconscious? Everyone in this room had been taken care of by this Tianyang. How powerful was this Tianyang? Looking at their cultivation, they're not bad. In the end, they're all a bunch of idiots. How can such a gathering be called a gathering of geniuses? It's more like a gathering of bragging. Tianyang looked at this group of people with some disappointment. He was wondering who they were, but in the end, they couldn't even take the first move of his Styx swordsmanship. How could they be considered geniuses? The strongest one spat out 3 mouthfuls of blood and was slightly injured. However, after hearing this, those who had fallen under Tianyang's hands almost spat out blood. His cultivation was real, and so was his combat strength. But who knew that his combat strength was so abnormal? He wasn't even at the 3rd heaven of the Tao Fire Realm. If not for the fact that Tianyang really looked so young, these people couldn't help but suspect that Tianyang was an old monster in disguise. Actually, Master, they're really not weak. Ling Yuhan poked Tianyang's waist and said weakly. Hearing this, Tianyang's face stiffened, but he still replied, To me, they're no different from rookies. I thought that there would be a real exchange of geniuses here, but I didn't expect it to be a gathering of a group of aristocrats. I've disturbed you. Tianyang chuckled and led Ling Yuhan out of the top floor of the Star Sword restaurant. As for Han Tianpeng and the rest, they looked at Tianyang's back with resentment. They had been pampered since they were young, and this was the first time they had suffered such humiliation. Even if they had attacked first, they didn't care. In their eyes, those who followed them would prosper, and those who opposed them would perish. Han Tianpeng, where did this person come from? How dare you treat us like this? The young man who had been sent flying by Tianyang struggled to crawl over and shouted angrily at Han Tianpeng. If it wasn't for Han Tianpeng taking the lead, they wouldn't have had to deal with the Tianyang one by one, and they wouldn't have been beaten up so miserably. In the eyes of the crowd, the status of Han Tianpeng, who had no foresight, had plummeted countless times. I don't know. On the surface, this person is from the Star Swordplay sect, but how could a third-rate force like the Star Swordplay sect cultivate such a genius? According to my estimation, this is definitely an outsider invited by the Star Sword sect. Therefore, we can't find the Star Swordplay sect. However, I don't believe that this person can appear out of thin air. Han Tianpeng's face was filled with resentment as he growled. At the very least, he has to participate in the Great Void Secret Realm. My second brother will soon return from the Mountain River sect at the center of the Central Region. At that time, no matter how strong the Tianyang is, they will have no choice but to submit to us. At that time, we can torture him however we want. Han Tianpeng said sinisterly. Hearing this, everyone's eyes lit up. Your second brother? The Han Tianxiong who joined the first-rate force, the Mountain River sect, and is invincible under the Spirit Sea Realm. That's right, it's him. With second brother making a move, this Tianyang will die. Han Tianpeng laughed loudly. The people beside him also revealed a trace of hope and sinister expressions. They desperately wanted to see the scene of Tianyang being tortured to death. This Zhou Tong is really unreliable. He's pushing any random cat or dog to me. Walking out of the Star Sword restaurant, Tianyang curled his lips and casually burned the so-called invitation to ashes. However, if Shou Tong heard the words he said, he would definitely cry out in grievance. This thing was plundered from the Purple Sun sect. He didn't know the details either. The reason why he gave it to Tianyang was because of the name. One had to know that they were all descendants of aristocratic families. So how could Shou Tong give it to them? However, Tianyang didn't care much about this thing. Instead, he looked around and looked at the center of Sword Star City, at the towering and enormous Sword Star. The Sword Star was 10,000 meters tall. It was like a giant sword that was stabbed into the center of Sword Star City. And on top of it, although there were only ordinary stones, they emitted a terrifying Sword Dao true intent. Tianyang and the other two also wanted to comprehend it. Although the Sword Star was the foundation of Sword Star City, it only stood in the center of the city. Sword Star City wouldn't protect it. After all, the Sword Star was too sturdy. At that time, there was once a 6th level CE of Soul Realm enemy of Sword Star City who wanted to destroy the Sword Star and completely annihilate Sword Star City. However, even if that 6th level CE of Soul Realm expert used all his skills and even executed a half-step heaven rank martial skill, he was still unable to shake the Sword Star in the slightest. He was even heavily injured by the counterattack of the Sword Star and was killed by the experts of Sword Star City. After this battle, countless people realized the power of the Sword Star. Even the enemies of Sword Star City wouldn't dare to attack the Sword Star. Therefore, Tianyang and the other two arrived at the surroundings of the Sword Star unimpeded. There are a lot of people. Ling Yuhan looked at the people who were sitting cross-legged and cultivating around the Sword Star and said in surprise, "The Sword Star is a powerful treasure that isn't inferior to a martial Dao Holy Land. It can't be taken away, it can't be destroyed, and it can accelerate one's cultivation. Naturally, there are countless people here." Tianyang smiled faintly and then walked towards the Sword Star. The aura of the sword principle, true meaning from the Sword Star, became even more intense when he arrived here. One could imagine that the closer one was to the Sword Star, the more Sword Dao, true meaning one would be able to comprehend. Their Sword Dao cultivation would also improve by leaps and bounds. Just as Tianyang and the other two stepped into this area, two people who were sitting cross-legged 300 feet away from the Sword Star suddenly opened their eyes. Looking at Tianyang and the other two approaching the Sword Star, one of the middle-aged men smiled and said, "This great void mystery realm is indeed charming. I don't know how many youths have come today. However, the Sword Star isn't that easy to get close to," the middle-aged man chuckled. Hearing this, his companion nodded and looked at the majestic Sword Star with lingering fear. The closer one was to the Sword Dao, true meaning, the stronger the Sword Dao, true meaning would be. However, the pressure would also increase exponentially. The two of them had already stepped into the first level of Sea of Soul Realm, but they were still suppressed by the pressure and could only cultivate 300 feet away. This showed how terrifying the pressure was. I estimate that these two youths should only be 500 to 600 feet away. The middle-aged man smiled and said. At this moment, Tianyang pondered for a moment and rushed out. 700 feet, 600 feet, 500 feet, 400 feet. In an instant, Tianyang arrived beside the two middle-aged men. In the next moment, he accelerated again. 200 feet. As for Ling Yuhan, he walked slowly and leisurely to the side of the two middle-aged men and glanced at the two of them. The two middle-aged men. Chapter 489. Tianyang's expression was solemn as he used the 9 heavens roaming dragon steps and rushed towards the Sword Star. Just now, his soul had sensed an extremely terrifying aura. That aura seemed to be able to suppress eternity and explode the entire world. It was extremely terrifying. Even the strongest sky demon that Tianyang had encountered in his previous life was far inferior to the Sword Star. As for Ling Yuhan, she knew that Tianyang must have his reasons for doing so she calmly walked in. The further in one went, the greater the Sword Dao true intent. Walking in, there was nothing to lose. However, the two middle-aged men beside her saw that the little girl was about to surpass them. They immediately opened their eyes wide and hurriedly asked, "Little girl, may I ask, how are you so fast?" The middle-aged man asked earnestly. They had been stuck at this distance of 300 feet for a long time. They had also been stuck at the first level of Sea of Soul Realm for a long time. And the Sword Star was where they sought the opportunity to break through. Now that they saw two unfamiliar faces with such shocking results, they naturally couldn't sit still. How are you so fast? Hearing this, Ling Yuhan was also stunned. She looked at herself and then looked at the Sword Star. Is it very fast? Hearing this, the two middle-aged men were speechless. They had spent several months to reach this step. In the end, you only spent a few minutes to do it. Was it not fast? This invisible pretentiousness was the most fatal. Maybe it's because Master taught me well. I haven't reached my limit yet, so I'll leave first. Uncle, bye. Ling Yuhan could also see that the two people were a little embarrassed, so she tactfully sped up and left. However, the direction she left and made the two middle-aged men have the urge to cry. Young girl, you directly took a step and closed several feet. Sure enough, the Sword Star is not just an ordinary meteorite. This terrifying aura is definitely not something that an ordinary stone can possess. Tianyang's expression changed slightly as he looked at the Sword Star that was getting closer and closer. At this moment, a terrifying pressure from the Sword Star also erupted in an instant. 1,000 feet was a boundary that separated true sword path experts. As soon as he entered the range of 100 zhang, Tianyang could feel the pressure on his body skyrocketing, causing him to stagger and almost fall to the ground. However, Tianyang's self-control was still good. Although this pressure came suddenly, it was only at an ordinary level. After adjusting for a while, Tianyang continued to walk forward. However, he had to slow down a lot. However, Tianyang's violent charge had also awakened many people. Seeing Tianyang, a 16-year-old youth, step into the range of 1,000 feet, countless people's mouths were wide open. It was as if a large duck egg could be stuffed into their mouths. Within 100 zhang, that was a place that only sword experts at the third level of Sea of Soul Realm and above could enter. This young man, who looked at most 16 or 17 years old, actually went in directly. I remember that the peerless genius from the Holy Land who came to challenge last time was at the peak of half-step Sea of Soul Realm. He was only one step away from the Sea of Soul Realm, but he only reached 135 zhang. A person was dumbfounded as he looked at Tianyang, who was getting closer and closer to the Sword Star, and muttered to himself. Hearing this, the people beside him were even more shocked. Holy Land of Martial Arts? You mean Ye Fengyan? I remember that he was only 135 zhang at the beginning. Later on, when he broke through to the first level of Sea of Soul Realm, he entered the range of 1,000 feet. But he is the strongest young sword cultivator of a holy land of martial arts. Could this unknown young man be stronger than Ye Fengyan? This can't be. Everyone was incomparably shocked. However, at this time, Tianyang had already stepped into the range of 500 feet. 1,000 feet could only make Tianyang feel a little strained, but 500 feet, Tianyang only felt as if he was carrying a huge mountain on his back. Even with his sword cultivation, it was almost impossible for him to move an inch. In his soul sea, the sky firmament sword was also moving rhythmically at an extreme speed. The soul of a peak heaven ascension realm expert was also trembling at an extreme speed. He also completely understood. Not only did the Sword Star come from beyond the heavens, but the sword cultivation on it also surpassed the heaven ascension realm by countless times. If Sword Saint Zhou Xing were to come back to life, perhaps he would also be unable to resist. Only Tianyang, who had vaguely broken through this world's sword cultivation, could withstand it. Legend has it that above the Heaven Ascension realm is a brand new great realm. Those who have reached this great realm have already transcended the tribulation and ascended, transcending this world. Tianyang strove forward with all his might. At this moment, he had already reached the 32nd zhang, a place that no one had ever set foot in before. Even if Tianyang didn't die, perhaps this would be his result. However, Tianyang could still walk. Crimson Dragon Wuzun, the origin emperor of Shirshu, reach this great realm after transcending the tribulation, transcending this world. If I succeed in transcending the tribulation, I should also be able to step into this realm. Tianyang clenched his teeth. At this moment, what was here was no longer the aura of the sword's true meaning. Instead, it was the purest sword's true meaning that the sword carried. The surrounding pressure also rose to the extreme, firmly pressing down on Tianyang's body, causing him to be unable to breathe. Surpassing countless people, including spiritual ocean realm and heaven ascension realm experts. Who exactly is this young man? In the surroundings of the Sword Star, everyone stood up one by one. Compared to cultivation, watching Tianyang break through the limit was obviously more important. This was enough to be recorded in the annals of Sword Star City, or even in the annals of the Central Region, or even in the annals of Heaven Continent. The surrounding sky was filled with figures. The surroundings of the Sword Star, which originally had many people, were now packed with people. That is. A person's eyes widened as he looked at the sky. His gaze was incomparably shocked, and when the people beside him followed his gaze, they also sucked in a breath of cold air. Sword Star City's City Lord. 7th level spiritual ocean realm expert. That is Elder Ku Shan, 3rd level spiritual ocean realm expert. The one beside Elder Ku Shan is actually the legendary 5th grade alchemist, Medicine King Xian Jun. These people are all great figures that are rarely seen in 100 years. Today, they are actually gathered here. Countless people were shocked. Looking at the incomparably famous great figures in the sky, their hearts almost stopped beating. Although they were all spiritual ocean realm experts, there is still a gap between them. For example, the two middle-aged men were obviously the weakest, and the ones watching in the sky were obviously spiritual ocean realm experts. Such great figures actually came to watch Tianyang break through. Ling Yuhan, who stopped at 130 feet, felt her heart tremble slightly. Master, aren't you too powerful? At this time, Tianyang stimulated all of his potential. The true dragon core crazily erupted, and the divine, desolate heavenly spirit art circulated at an extremely fast speed. With 3 steps, he rushed towards the sword star that was close by. 90 feet, 80 feet, 70 feet, 5 feet, 4 feet, 3 feet. Finally, a resplendent light flashed, and Tianyang's palm also touched the sword star. A voice that sounded like a great bell also sounded in Tianyang's mind. Chapter 490. Above the Tantian realm is Wu Zun. These words were like a great bell ringing in Tianyang's mind. Tianyang was also shocked as he looked at the sword star in front of him. At this moment, the sword star in Tianyang's eyes was no longer the sword star that was wrapped in stone and looked like a Rayal rock. Instead, it was an extremely sharp sword that was 10,000 meters long. Above the Tantian realm is Wu Zun. Tianyang's heart trembled slightly as he looked at the sword in front of him. It seems that above the Tantian realm is Wu Zun's realm. The reason why the red dragon Wu Zun is called Wu Zun is probably because he broke through to the Wu Zun's realm in ancient times. Tianyang said in a low voice. Many of the doubts in his heart had also been explained. However, Tianyang looked at the sword star again. The sword star was the long sword of the legendary Wu Zun. How could it turn into a sword star and be lost in the sky continent? His soul power spread out and turned into a thin soul thread that touched the long sword. If something happened to this thread of soul power, Tianyang could immediately cut off the connection and leave at the speed of light. My name is Shuntian Wuzun. I am at the peak of Wu Zun's realm, and I am about to become a saint. It's a pity that when I was roaming the sea of stars in search of an opportunity to break through, I was attacked by a villain. Although my body escaped, my sword was lost in another world. With Wu Zun's strength, it is very difficult to break through the barrier of the world once. If you want to roam the universe, you have to at least reach the Holy Emperor realm. Although I, Shuntian Wuzun, am strong, it is difficult for me to find my sword. Before I leave, I'll leave behind a soul imprint. I hope that whoever comes will be able to obtain my all-heaven sword and return it to me. I, Shuntian Wuzuan will definitely repay you greatly." A majestic voice was transmitted into Tianyang's ears through the spiritual thread. Upon hearing this, Tianyang's expression changed slightly. All Heaven Sword? It seemed that this was the name of the 10,000-meter-long sword. And Shuntian Wuzuan? Wuzuan was at the peak of the Saint Plain and was about to become a saint. It seemed that this Shuntian Wuzuan was one of the strongest among Wuzuan. As Tianyang silently digested the countless pieces of information he had obtained, he suddenly felt a sense of relief. This world was indeed bigger than this. Outside of Heaven Continent, there was Shuntian Wuzuan's unknown world, and outside of that unknown world, there were countless other worlds. In a myriad of worlds, there were countless powerhouses, countless opportunities, and countless dangers. When he thought of this, Tianyang felt the blood in his chest begin to boil. However, this all-heaven sword is Wuzuan's personal sword. I don't know what level of treasure it is, but I'm afraid that it has surpassed the supreme grade heavenly sword in my previous life when it was at its peak. I'm afraid that I can't even pull it out an inch now. Tianyang smiled bitterly and shook his head. This all-heaven sword was too powerful, and he had no way of taking it away. At the very least, with his current cultivation of the third heaven of the Tao Fire realm, it was impossible. When he returned to the heavenly ascension realm in the future, he would think of a way. However, anyone who can come into contact with my all-heaven sword must be a top existence in that world. Their talent in the way of the sword must be extremely tyrannical. In order to see my personal sword as soon as possible, I, Shuntian Wuzuan, will give you an opportunity. The vigorous voice sounded again. Hearing this, Tianyang's expression changed slightly. At this moment, a small sword spirit rushed out of the all-heaven sword and landed in Tianyang's sea of soul. In the next moment, an extremely tyrannical sword technique appeared in his mind. Upper-grade heaven-class martial technique. 10,000 swords to origin sword technique. This sword technique only has one move, but this move is comparable to an upper-grade heaven-class martial technique. 10,000 swords to origin, one sword to bury the heavens. In an instant, a huge amount of complicated information rushed into Tianyang's mind. Tianyang was shocked. An upper-grade heaven-class martial technique? What kind of concept was this? Although Sword Saint Zhou Xing's heavenly cycle stellar sword technique was an upper-grade heaven-class martial technique, it was not created by Zhou Xing. It was found in an ancient ruin. Therefore, Sword Saint Zhou Xing's compatibility with the heavenly cycle stellar sword technique was not strong. However, Zhou Xing still relied on it to kill his way through the world and reach the peak of the heavenly completion realm, second only to the Tianji Sword Emperor. He became a sword saint that was above the sword emperor, and this sword technique, 10,000 swords to origin, only had one move, and it was comparable to an upper-grade heaven-class martial technique that had many moves? In that case, just how powerful was this sword strike? No, although this 10,000 swords to origin sword technique is powerful, it is extremely difficult to cultivate. Tianyang's expression changed slightly. Looking at the description of the 10,000 swords to origin sword technique, he sighed. It clearly stated that to cultivate the 10,000 swords to origin sword technique, one had to be at least at the 5th level of the Sea of Soul realm, which was the Spirit King realm. Moreover, the consumption of the 10,000 swords to origin sword technique was extremely terrifying. Even if one reached the Spirit King realm, one might not be able to use one move. However, one move was enough to shatter the heavens. With such power, even if one exhausted all their true yuan, it would be worth it. I'll wait until I reach the Sea of Soul realm before try to cultivate it. Yeah, there's actually something else. Tianyang was just about to leave the Sea of Soul, but he suddenly discovered that within the tiny sword soul, there was another power besides the 10,000 swords to origin sword technique. Lightly touching it with his soul power, Tianyang immediately understood. This power was a part of the power that Shuntian Wuzuan had left in the all-heaven sword. If he used this power, He would be able to use the 10,000 swords to origin sword technique 3 times without needing to comprehend it himself. 3 times of the 10,000 swords to origin sword technique, and each time it would at least have the power of the Sea of Soul Realm. If the 3 times were combined into one, Tianyang could even rely on this move to battle against a heavenly completion realm warrior. Of course, even if he didn't die after one move, Tianyang would still die instantly. Not bad. This Shun Tian Wuzuan's considerations are really thorough. He even thought of this point. Tianyang chuckled as his consciousness returned to his body. Looking at the all-heaven sword in front of him, he bowed. Having received such a great favor from Shun Tian Wuzuan, Tianyang naturally couldn't treat it as nothing. This bow also represented that Tianyang had accepted this mission. I can't cultivate the 10,000 swords to origin sword technique for the time being, but the Wuzun level sword Dao true intent surrounding the all-heaven sword is a supreme treasure. I worked so hard to come here, I can't waste it. Tianyang chuckled as he slowly circulated the divine desolate heaven spirit art. Then he sat down cross-legged. Not caring about how many important figures were watching him, Tianyang's mind calmed down and he entered a state of cultivation. Cultivating here, with the Sword Dao true intent to provide comprehension of the Sword Dao, and with the huge pressure to speed up cultivation, it was simply a cultivation treasure land. Tianyang smiled with satisfaction and completely immersed himself. However, Tianyang felt good. The various important figures watching from afar were all dumbfounded.